The August 19 meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals is now in session. Good evening and welcome to this meeting of the Arlington Board of Zoning Appeals, which is also known as the BZA. I am Inta Malice, Chair of the Board. The board is made up of 5 citizens appointed by the Circuit Court. In addition to myself, we have Vice Chair Peter Owen and members Judy Freshman, Paul Melnick, and Portia Clark. Also present is the professional staff, including Stephen Rizzi, coordinator for the BZA, Cliff Hogan, assistant to the zoning administrator, Blake Bowen, assistant to the zoning administrator, Mark Hamela, zoning technician, and Pamela Banner, administrative specialist. For the safety of our board members, county staff, and applicants, and the participating community members, we are in a virtual meeting today, and all participants are joining remotely. We are legally authorized to hold this virtual meeting based on the governor's executive orders, legislation adopted by the Virginia General Assembly, and the Arlington County Board's Continuity of Operations Ordinance adopted in March of 2020. We thank you for being here and extend a warm welcome. Before we call our first case, I will share with you some general information about the Board of Zoning Appeals. Then I will also share some ground rules on how we will conduct this virtual meeting. The staff reports for each case on tonight's agenda can be found on the BZA website. Staff has placed a link to the agenda in the chat section of the session. If you have not seen the report for your case, you may wish to review it before your item is called. The board's powers are prescribed in the Code of Virginia and are set forth in further detail in the county's zoning ordinance adopted by the county board. The Board of Zoning Appeals does not have the power to rezone property or to amend the regulations set forth in the ordinance. That authority rests with the county board. This board does have the authority to do 3 things. 1, we can approve use permits that allow modification of placement requirements for structures on 1 and 2 family lots where there is no option in the zoning ordinance to allow such modifications. 2, we can grant variances from the specific requirements of the zoning ordinance. And 3, we can decide appeals of decisions of the zoning administrator. When approving use permits, the Board of Zoning Appeals may impose conditions that it deems necessary in the public interest, including limiting the duration of the use permit. In order to approve a use permit, the law requires that the board find that the proposal meets conditions and that the use permit will not adversely affect the health or safety of persons residing in the neighborhood, will not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to property or improvements in the neighborhood, and will not be in conflict with the purposes of the master plans and land use and zoning related policies of the county. To do this, the BZA shall consider whether the modifications will promote compatibility of development with the surrounding neighborhood because the structure's overall footprint, size, and placement are similar to structures on the property surrounding the lot in question, and whether the modification will help preserve natural landforms, historical features, and/or significant trees and foliage. When granting variances, the burden of proof is on the applicant to prove by preponderance of the evidence that the improvements meet the following criteria. The strict application of the ordinance would unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property, or that granting the variance would alleviate a hardship due to the physical conditions relating to the property, or improvements thereon at the time of the effective date of the ordinance, or that the granting of the variance would alleviate a hardship by granting a reasonable modification to a property or improvement thereon requested by or on behalf of a person with a disability. And the property for which the variance is being requested was acquired in good faith and any hardship was not created by the applicant. That the variance granted will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property and nearby properties in the proximity of the geographical area, that the condition or situation of the property concerned is not so general or recurring a nature as to make reasonably practical the adoption of an amendment to the ordinance, that granting the variance will not result in a use that is not otherwise permitted on the property or change the zoning classification of the property, and that the relief or remedy obtained through the variance is not available through a special exception process as provided for under the zoning or subdivision ordinances. When deciding appeals of the zoning administrator, the board must use its judgment to determine if the administrator was correct. For tonight, the order of our meeting is as follows. First, cases will be called and a brief staff report and recommendation will be given. Following that, board members will ask any questions of staff that they may have. Next, applicants or their representatives will be given an opportunity to make comments to support the application or appeal. Next, all speakers for the item will be called. After we hear from the speakers for and against the proposal, the board may permit the applicant a brief opportunity to clarify any points. The board may also ask questions of any speaker, but does not permit and will not condone any cross-examination or direct questioning by others. We have deemed the following time limits for applicants and speakers to be sufficient. 20 minutes for applicants of appeal, 5 minutes for applicants of use permits and variances, 3 minutes for speakers representing organizations, and 2 minutes for those speaking as individuals. After the board has gathered all the information they need and has discussed the case, it will decide the matter by voting on a motion duly made and seconded. A majority is needed to approve any motion. Any appeal from the decision of this board must be made to the circuit court in accordance with state law. After your case of interest is heard, you are welcome to stay for the balance of the session or leave at your convenience. Now I would like to orient everyone to our new virtual environment and to cover a few specifics about how this evening's meeting will run. Tonight's meeting is available to stream from the county website via a Microsoft Teams link. There is also a dial-in phone option for those who wish to use it. If board members, presenters, or speakers lose internet connectivity during today's meeting, please reconnect with us by phone. Please keep your phones and devices muted until you are called upon. Turn off any sound to any other devices around you to minimize interference. For guests joining us via Teams, please turn off your video feed. Only board members will leave their cameras on. When called upon to speak, please turn on your camera and unmute yourself by clicking on the microphone icon that is located on your meeting's command bar. The moderator does not have the ability to unmute you. If you are dialing in by phone, press *6 to unmute. The meeting chat is active for presenters or board members who need technical assistance only. The meeting chat should not be used for discussion, public comment, questions about agenda items, or requests for more information. All public comments must be shared verbally for the record during the assigned public testimony period. Board members wishing to speak will be recognized. We'll seek recognition verbally as usual. If we find that unworkable, we also have the option to use the raised hand function. In either case, once you have been recognized, you may unmute yourself. All voting today will be taken via roll call. Applicants and public speakers. Public speakers and applicants, you will be called upon by county staff at an assigned time. Pre-registration to speak at today's hearing was requested. We will accommodate any additional speakers only if time permits. Public comment will take place within the timeframe stated earlier, as the same as we would provide in an in-person meeting. During public comment, a speaking timer will be displayed on the screen by staff. If you are dialing in by phone and unable to see the screen, we will provide an audible warning when 30 seconds are remaining. You will be muted when your time has concluded. Lastly, this is a public forum. Today's meeting will be recorded and posted to the county's website. All information associated with today's meeting, whether written or spoken, is subject to the Freedom of Information Act requirements. This concludes the introductory remarks. Mr. Rizzi, you may call the first agenda item, please.
Yes. Case number V-11551-20-VA-2 is a variance request by Michael Brelu and Amy Harrison, the owners, to permit a maximum lot coverage of 42.44% instead of 40% as required regarding a rear screen porch in place of existing rear deck in the R6 zoning district on the premise known as 5209 11th Road North. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution denying the variance. Proposed alternative resolution has been provided should the board see fit to approve the variance as advertised. And I'd like you to please note that there is supplemental material for this case that came in after the application packet was assembled and printed. There's a letter from a neighbor that came in through the website.
Thank you, Mr. Rizzi. Is there any questions for staff?
Madam Chair.
Mr. Owen?
Is the applicant's proposal to remove and replace the existing deck or just to add to it?
It would be to remove, replace, and slightly expand the existing deck.
So everything we see in the photographs there would be temporarily removed and then something else would go in its place.
That is my understanding.
Okay. Am I correct to understand that no, I'll ask the other questions later. Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Mr. Rizzi, I have a question. The fact that they're removing the deck entirely and replacing it, does that counter the ordinance as it exists today regarding coverage?
No, Madam Chair. From a zoning perspective, once you're removing something, even if it's just to replace it, it is gone, and so you have to get the approval to build it back.
Even if it was identical?
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? I see that we have no additional speakers signed up. Is there anyone else here that wishes to speak on this item? Not hearing from anyone. Let's.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Someone has their hand raised.
Oh, okay. Could you unmute yourself?
The applicant.
It's
That's
the applicant, Madam Chair.
Okay. All right. The applicant, I think you may unmute yourself and turn on your video.
Hi. Thank you. Sorry about that. Thank you so much for having us tonight and for being willing to do this in this format, because I know it's a big change for everybody. So we really appreciate that. The reason I raised my hand is just wanted to speak to the question about the existing structure. So our plan was actually not to tear that down, because when we hired a contractor to come look at the deck, it's actually really solid, the supports. The issue is with the decking itself. Being older and being wood, it's just very run down. So wanted to replace that. And also there's a lot of water that comes through there's a patio underneath that collects a lot of water and mildew. So wanting to replace the decking with something and then put something underneath that would help with that situation. And then the slight increase, which I know is not recommended, and we're completely fine with that. It's just there's a little piece of the railing that goes in front of a window. So we were hoping to extend out. Yeah, right there. You can see it. We were hoping to extend that little part there, not the stairs, but just create a little platform so that the window wouldn't be obstructed. But we're fine with not having that. I think for us, our hope is just to be able to repair the deck and do the screened in porch on top. So take that area on top and just screen it in and make it look really nice. Because it's, when we moved in, it was in good shape, but it's definitely gotten pretty run down. I don't know if you have anything you want to add, Michael?
Yeah, so basically the supports will stay the same. It's just the decking material, the balusters, all those things we're going to replace. But we're not taking down any of the foundational parts of the deck.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant?
I may have some, but I want to go back to staff, Madam Chair, if I can.
Certainly.
So, Mr. Rissy, it sounds like the applicants are only partially removing the structure we see in this photograph. How much of the structure do they have to remove before they lose their existing variance?
The structural elements would be the determining factor. So we do allow for repair of elements, non-conforming elements, but we don't allow for the replacement of these structural elements. So we're okay with the replacement of the decking, the railings, but not the columns, or posts, or joists or beams.
So the joists and beams are not being proposed to be removed, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So which,
Sorry.
which part's being removed that triggers the loss of the variance?
Well, they're also adding a screened-in porch over the existing structure. So for us, it's a different structure. What was previously approved by the BZA was a deck and not a screened porch. So that's why we thought it important to bring it back to the BZA.
And the variance that they got last time was for a rear yard encroachment?
It was actually, I believe, for separation between the rear deck and the existing accessory structure. Because of a change in the ordinance since the time when that approval was granted, that is no longer required for the applicant.
So they got a variance for what they needed at the time. They didn't get a variance for the covers that they didn't need at the time. And now to replace, not to replace anything, it sounds like they still are keeping their rights under the previous variance and non-conforming, but so it's not that they're losing the non-conforming status by taking down structural elements. It's that by adding an enclosure, they're adding enough that it's like a new structure.
It was different enough that we felt the BZA should be the ones to look at it, as they were the ones who approved it previously, even though it was for something else at the time.
Okay. So the applicants are proposing, the original application was to increase coverage by 18 or 19 square feet, or about a little more than 2 1/4. I'm sorry, a little more than 1/4% of coverage. Is that about right?
That sounds correct.
Okay. And then during the discussion just now, the applicant said they're willing to actually just keep the stairwell where it is, if that makes a difference, which would be a 0% increase in coverage. It's just the addition that triggers the need for the variance, the addition in the form of covering and enclosing.
Correct.
Okay. I think I'll pause for a moment.
If I could ask the applicants, or sorry, the guests who just joined us to turn off your camera just until your item's called, we would appreciate that.
How do I turn that off?
There's a control panel if you hover your cursor over it, and the second from the left should be a little video icon.
Thank you.
Mr. Rissy, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, one more question for Mr. Rissy.
Certainly.
I believe there were supplemental materials submitted for this item.
Yes,
Can you please describe them?
it was a letter submitted through the online portal from the neighbor. Is that sufficient, or?
Sure.
Read it?
And then my question for the applicants is, have you read the letter from your neighbor that was submitted to us today?
We haven't seen it.
So there's a link on the BZA's webpage for today's meeting.
Okay.
Is it in chat?
Yeah, the link is in the chat.
If you go to chat, you can get to the link quicker.
Yeah, I got it here on my phone.
Oops.
I'm looking.
Okay.
I can also put it on the screen.
Okay. Thank you so much.
So the good news is you were the first item, so your neighbor's letter is the second page of that supplemental.
True.
I need my reading glasses to read it, but I think my husband's
I
got
can't read on my
it.
phone either.
That's so sad. Oh, thank you. Okay.
Concerns.
Oh. Okay.
Okay.
Got it.
All right. Yep, we see that.
Okay, maybe think about that for a minute. I have some other questions, but if my colleagues have questions, I'd like to defer to them.
Any questions from my other members? Judy, Ms. Freshman.
Yeah, my question was going to be about the neighbor's complaint. So that other than that, I just await the answer.
Yeah, so I'm happy to address that if you'd like. So the dogs are never left outside for extended periods of time. There's no separation anxiety. They do bark, they're dogs, but it's very short periods of time. And I'm not really sure how a screen-in porch is going to affect whether they bark or not. We won't leave the dog. They simply don't stay outside. And if we have other neighbors who I'm sure would be happy to provide written evidence that we don't leave them outside. This is a particular neighbor, is what I'll say.
Mr. Rissy, am I correct that there are no neighbor comments on this except for the letter that we just received?
I would have to check the packet, Madam Chair.
That's
but
all right.
it's the case.
Yes, there was no neighborhood outreach.
Yeah, I don't see any outreach to your neighbors.
And could you tell us when this was originally scheduled, Stephen?
I believe this was May.
Okay. I'm just, as always, concerned when not only is there not outreach, but in the case of all of the backlog that we have, is given everyone more opportunity to fill in those gaps, and it's distressing when that doesn't happen.
I guess the question of the applicant, were you aware of our expectation that there would be neighborhood outreach?
I honestly wasn't aware that we were supposed to present it here. We have spoken to our neighbors. They've all been supportive with the exception of the letter that was sent in. I think they don't even adjoin our house, I don't believe. But we've spoken to the neighbors on both sides. They're supportive. And if you'd like, I could even text our next door neighbors and have them join now if you'd like.
So that's the people that live on the left and the right hand side of you?
Yeah. So on one side, it's the Hughes family,
Okay.
and the other side is the Beck family.
Okay, and this letter is from,
I think
your
yeah.
neighbor. I'm looking here. When it says behind, so this is from from
So
Beth
if you-
Emanuel. Beth Emanuel is she right behind your house?
No, no, I believe it's I'm not positive, but I believe it's the house. If you're looking at the screen now at our house, to the left, there's a greenhouse. I believe it's the house behind the greenhouse. I think those are the folks that sent the letter. I'm not positive, but I suspect that's who it is.
Yeah, Mr. Rissy, I don't see an address on this letter about the barking dogs. Am I missing it?
I don't see one either, Madam Chair.
Yeah. Do you know Beth Emanuel?
No,
We don't know.
we don't.
So you're suspecting that this is a neighbor who lives at 5206 12th Street North?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to, it's a public forum. I feel kind of bad casting aspersions on a public forum, but that's what I suspect.
Yeah, I mean, the name is in the record. So we're just trying to figure out where, in order to evaluate their concerns, we're just trying to figure out what direction they're.
Yeah, I mean, I'm confident our property does not touch their property.
Okay.
Wow, so it's across someone else's backyard.
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
So, Madam Chair.
Yeah, Mr. Owen.
We can impose conditions on a variance. And so, although it would be unusual, and I bet we would get complaints from zoning staff about it, you know, I guess it's not inconceivable that we could grant the variance with the condition that the applicants will not leave animals unattended. Wow.
We're getting a lot of noise. Could everybody mute that's not talking?
So,
Thank you.
I hate to butt in, but I'm actually on the wrong one. Is this a series that you're going through, or am I just on the wrong house?
I'm sorry. Are you asking what case we're on?
I understand the case you are on, but the one I was trying to get on is not what I'm looking. This one is not what I was looking for.
So we have, I think, 10 cases on our agenda tonight. Could your case of interest be later?
It could be. So do I need to listen to everything? My case number is V11558-20-UP-1.
I didn't
That
get
is the third to last item on the agenda for the evening, sir.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
what? Just listen and it'll come up. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay.
All right. Sorry. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there.
so
Where are we? Oh,
Madam
about a
Chair, I was in the
condition.
middle of trying to explain how BZA has powers. The BZA can impose conditions on a variance, and although I bet it would not be favored by the staff, I think it's probably lawful for us to impose a condition such as the applicants agree that no animals will be left unattended on the structure, period. That could be a condition of the variance. Whether that's a good idea or not is something else, but I'm wondering what the applicant's reaction would be to having that be a condition of a variance that was granted.
For us, it's no problem because they're not ever left unattended to begin with. So we have no problem complying with a requirement that we're already complying with.
Okay. Thank you. Madam Chair, I think that, Madam Chair, one more question. In
Certainly.
the packet, the applicants asserted that this project would affect drainage on the property. I'm unclear as to how the change would affect drainage and whether or not that would affect the neighboring properties.
So go ahead if you want to.
No, go ahead, honey.
So what we're proposing, we're going to do is there's going to be an underlayment under the boards. And then that's because how it works now is the water just goes straight through. So we're trying to just get some of the water away from the foundation. So it'll go into our yard, but there won't be so much that it's going to be going off into other yards. The way that the elevation of our property is, it'll just stay in our grass.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That's the end of my questions.
Okay. We had no other speakers on this case, so the discussions with the board. So the issue is whether to permit this at all, whether to permit this with the additional new staircase, and whether any other conditions need to be included.
Madam Chair, this is Paul Melnick.
Mr. Melnick?
So my thoughts on it are, I'm not, of course we have the requirements under the ordinance, and one of them is, would the strict application of the terms of the ordinance unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property? And I'm just not seeing an unreasonable restriction, at least with the expansion of the area of the deck. I just don't see, that this unreasonable restriction with the way the stairway and top landing at the top of the stairs currently are. And I don't see a hardship. It is an interesting idea, if it's possible, about the screen porch, because that's not expanding. It's not expanding the coverage of this, because it's just going up. And as Steve was saying, it's questionable because it's structural. It's a screen porch, but porch itself, I'm looking at the requirements of the ordinance, and just if there is an extended coverage, then I think I could support it. And as far as what Mr. Owen was saying about the restricting the dogs, I think that would be very onerous, to have something like unattended dogs. And I think that it would set up a precedent where other people would, request things like that if they got word that we're having restrictions like that, because there are noise ordinances in Arlington that can handle things like, pets that are making too much noise and so forth. But I don't think, with all due respect to Mr. Owen, I don't think we ought to go down the path, of regulating animals, and whether they're attended or not. But so that's where I stand at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Melnick. Ms. Freshman.
I agree with Mr. Melnick. Generally speaking, I mean, if you go from barking dogs to screaming children, I think we should leave that part of it out. And actually, the increase in coverage, I'm sympathetic to extending just the part of the landing that is in front of the window. I think if you're talking about an infinitesimal increase in the coverage, which of course would not have even mattered until the zoning ordinance was changed. So I could support the application as advertised, which would allow for that small platform to be extended minimally. Not the stairs, just the platform in front of the window. I think it's such a small change that it's insignificant.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Owen?
I actually would say that I would support the increase in the coverage for purposes of addressing the safety condition. I think that the hardship prong of our variance rules allow for that that the condition of existing structures is something that we can take into consideration for hardship. And I don't think that most decks in Arlington, or very many decks in Arlington, are so commonly constructed with railings in front of windows that the county board could reasonably make an ordinance change to address this. But I actually don't. I agree with staff, and I'm not sure I agree with my colleagues about the enclosing. You know, enclosing porches, I think is a big deal, and is something that, you know, we've talked about before. That's sort of our bright line a lot of the time, that adding porches, you know, gets people outside and they see their neighbors and the community becomes safer and more social. But when you enclose something and you make it part of the structure, then that exacerbates the sort of monster home coverage concerns that I think led to the most recent changes to the ordinance. So I guess I would say I would support the extension of the landing, but I would not support the enclosure of the deck.
Madam Chair, this is Paul Melnick.
Mr. Melnick.
And this is also directed to Steve Rissy. Is there more of a close-up? Because it is rather difficult to see where the railing comes in the window, like whether it's actually blocking part of the glass or whether it's just on the frame. Is there any way to blow that photograph up or zoom in or something? Okay.
Fortunately, that's about as close as I can get.
Enhance.
Well, Madam Chair, if I could ask a question of the applicants.
I think the applicant has their hand up, but
We're very eager.
Okay.
so you listen to the question first.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, because what I'm wondering is, you know, I'm very sensitive to, you know, life safety issues. I've done volunteer firefighting myself, so I know how important windows are. But how far, do you know how far into the window glass area this railing goes?
What'd you say?
Yeah, I could go upstairs and measure it if you like. I think it's like about 3 inches or so. It's into the glass for sure. You can, when we sit up, if you look from the inside out, the railing goes right into the glass.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, you
You
know.
can tell it was built by the previous homeowner. It was home built.
Yeah. So with that, with the zooming in and seeing that, so I'm more convinced about a hardship, about expanding the railing at this point. That's very helpful. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Mr. Rissy, could you repeat staff's issue with enclosing the porch as it relates to the variance? We have a variance for the deck. So is it staff's position that the porch is substantially different than a deck?
Madam Chair, I would say yes. They're adding structural elements on top of a deck, which is typically our bright line. We wouldn't allow for structural modification, so I think our position is we wouldn't, at a staff level, allow for the addition of structural elements. I would like to clarify, though, that it is not enclosing the porch. From a staff perspective, this is covering, because a screened porch is still an unenclosed space.
Structure.
Just to toe that line.
And so I'm trying to understand the distinction between just the deck and the porch. A variance was required for the deck because of coverage?
No, originally the variance was required because of the separation required at the time between the deck and the garage. The separation has changed so that is no longer required, however.
Okay, so let me ask it this way. If that deck didn't exist today, if there was nothing there, what permissions would they need to build a deck with the enclosure on it?
They would need the same variance for coverage.
for coverage.
Correct.
In the past, they needed it for placement. Now it's because of their overrun coverage. Okay. But how does their coverage change by virtue of the fact that there's a porch on there, or that there's a structure?
So the structure that the BZA approved was not over coverage at the time, but when the ordinance was changed to the current coverage limitations, it is now. So,
But the coverage
they're
has to
expanding
do,
it.
the coverage has to do with the deck, right? I mean,
Correct.
and the fact that it's built over doesn't change coverage.
not particularly.
So I'm trying to understand the distinction between why we're concerned about building over. If in fact, this is as if they're asking for a new variance.
Well, they are also asking for a very minor expansion.
Yes, that I understand. But so
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mr. Owen.
I think the way that I understand it, and Mr. Rissy, correct me if I'm wrong, is if you have an existing non-conforming coverage because of a porch, and you decided to convert the porch into a full-blown addition on the same footprint, staff's view is that's not the existing non-conforming condition. That's too much extra stuff to slip in under your existing coverage. Even though the coverage doesn't change, what you're covered with does change. And my understanding is you're interpreting this the same way. You're saying that because it's now covered versus uncovered, the old nonconformity grandfathering no longer would apply, just as if it were a full-blown addition that they were proposing to convert to. Am I understanding your analysis correctly?
Correct.
And then in addition, we have this other factor of the 19 square foot increase for the land. So there's two reasons why they would need a variance. One is for coverage by a different kind of structure, and the other is additional coverage for the landing. Am I correctly understanding still?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
Any other discussion? I see the applicant has a hand up, but I'm not sure if that's your old hand or a new hand. Old hand, okay.
Sorry.
Oh, it's back.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to try again to remind guests who are waiting for future items to please turn their video feeds off so that we can see the board members and applicants.
I think he's muted.
Mr. Matney, I think if you could turn your camera off, that would be helpful. Madam Chair, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Mr. Owen.
I move the proposed alternative resolution approval as advertised with the following modifications.
Sorry.
1 minute.
Whereas the BZA finds that the granting, in the fourth whereas clause, add a not. Oh no, I'm sorry.
As advertised.
This is as advertised. No, I like that too. No, I'm good with all of it actually. With an addition, condition number 4, the applicants will obtain a building permit to construct the structure permitted herein by August 18th, 2023, or this variance is null and void. So 3-year expiration.
Ms. Freshman? Ms. Freshman, seconds.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Owen.
I'll just note, because I want to make sure everyone's voting with their eyes open, that the staff recommendation in condition number 2 says that the applicants agree that the rear decks and screen porch shall not be covered, enlarged, enclosed, or built over, right? So the motion I made was the staff's recommendation, which does not permit the screening of the porch.
But it's not approved as it's not approved as advertised.
That may be.
Right.
That's the motion I made that staff proposed.
Right. Ms.
I'll
Freshman,
withdraw my second.
you withdraw your
I
second.
think,
Thank
I think enclosing it or building over it should not happen. But as it stands now, if you're saying they can't do the screen porch, period, no, I won't support that.
Oh, I'm not sure I understand, Ms. Freshman, what you just said.
I thought you were saying that as the motion as written wouldn't allow the screen porch.
The motion as written would allow them to expand the landing to move the railing and not, as they propose, further cover the porch.
Madam Chair, this is Paul Melnick. I'm getting a lot of back
I am
feedback.
too.
I think somebody's got like a mic on. I was interfering with me hearing Mr. Owen. Sorry.
Mr. Owen, you want to repeat?
Yep. So I believe that the motion and my intention of the motion is the motion allows them to expand the deck to make the landing to move the unsafe railing and nothing more.
Mr. Rissy? Mr. Rissy? Is that
Yes.
the way you interpret the motion as advertised?
No, Ms. Freshman. The way I interpret it is they are allowed to have the screen porch, but they could not cover the additional expanded deck portion.
But can we also say, as we often do with porches, they can't build over it or enclose it?
Yes, the rest of that was in there. I was just trying to clarify the
Okay.
screen porch portion.
Because the reason I seconded it was because I thought the motion as advertised allowed for the small expansion of the deck landing and the screening of a portion of the deck.
We're going to get ourselves in trouble if we all approve the same language, but we think it means different things.
Agreed.
Especially the applicant. So the condition in question is that the applicants agree that the rear decks and the screen porch shall not be covered, enlarged, enclosed, or built over. So Mr. Rissy, you interpret that as the portion that is currently, that would not be covered in the future.
Correct.
But that the part that is covered in the plans would be allowed.
A screen porch, by virtue of definition of porch, has a covering. So yes, we would expect that.
Yeah, it's a tough condition. I think the condition would need to be clarified for everybody's protection, whichever way we go here. You know, if maybe that, you know, I know Mr. Owens, that's not the motion. You don't have a second yet, right?
Well, I did. I'm not sure there's takebacks in Robert's rules, but
Okay, you can have my second for purposes of discussion.
all right.
All right. Well, let me make an okay.
But I guess I would say, what if, and so the part that's being proposed to be screened in is over the top of what's there now, right? Is that what the applicant is proposing? So there's two levels here. There's a lower level at ground level, and then there's a level on the first story level. And so my understanding is what's proposed to be screened in is not the ground level, but the upper story. Is that right?
Yes, the deck.
All right. And so if I wanted this motion to mean none of that deck can be covered or screened, how would I rephrase the motion that I made?
I would eliminate the word "and screen porch" from the condition.
Oh, I see. Got it. All right.
Well, the first whereas says regarding a rear screen porch in place of the existing deck, rear deck.
Yep.
I agree. Some other structural changes to the whereas clauses may be necessary, but that is how I would change the condition.
All right. So I think we can I can now make an amendment motion that will get us all clarified. So if you can bear with me a moment.
You're going to do a substitute motion?
No, just a regular amendment.
You're going to amend the motion, okay?
Yep. So, and this way, the vote we take on the amendment will clarify where the majority of the BZA stands on this question. So I'll offer an amendment to delete the words rear screened porch in place of, and replace those words with the word expansion of. And then in the second condition, to delete the words and the screened porch. That's my motion to amend the main motion. So if anyone agrees with me, they should second it, and then we should vote on
that. Is there a second? Procedurally, I thought that would be a substitute motion and not an amended motion.
No, it's just an amendment to the main motion.
Okay, it's just an amendment. Is there a second to the amendment, to Mr. Owen's amendment? Not hearing it, the amended motion fails. So we're back to the motion as stated, correct?
Sounds like that to me.
Which is approval as advertised.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. I'll call a question.
I will call the roll. Mr. Owen?
No.
Ms. Freshman?
Aye.
Mr. Melnick?
Aye.
Ms. Clark?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The motion to adopt, to grant the use permit as advertised passes on a vote of 4-1. So thank you very much, applicants.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
All right, good evening. Mr. Rissy, will you call the next item?
The next item is case number V-11552-20-UP-1. It is a use permit request by Nzenka and Heather Date. The owners submit a left side setback of 5.4 feet to the wall, 4.7 feet to the eave, instead of 8 feet to the wall, 5 feet to the eave, as required from the left side property line, regarding a one-story addition in the R6 zoning district on the premise known as 5904 10th Road North. Staff recommends the board adopt the proposed resolution granting the use permit request with conditions.
Questions for staff, Ms. Freshman?
Just a general comment that I think the outreach was outstanding, including tracking down owners of properties which are currently rentals.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Owen?
I want to emphatically agree with Ms. Freshman. I had a note to make sure to compliment the applicant's agent for doing a superior job of documenting the neighbor outreach and comparisons.
Any other comments for staff?
Madam Chair, this is Paul Melnick.
Yes, Mr. Melnick?
Okay, so in looking through the application and disclosure, I noticed that it's not signed, so the application is not signed by the owners.
Is that right?
I believe it's pronounced state that Heather is listed as an owner on the application, but is not listed as having an ownership interest at all on the disclosure statement.
Mr. Rissy?
Yeah,
Mr.
so
Rissy, I'm sorry, go ahead. I noticed that Ayinka has her name, his name, twice. And Heather is not on the disclosure. Was that intentional? Yes.
Okay, not intentional. I fully support this request. You have my full emphatic support.
Wait a minute. No, that's not the question.
Sorry.
So, Mr. Rissy, are there two owners? Well, maybe it is for the applicant. Are there two owners?
I think we should let the applicants answer that, Madam Chair.
All right. If there's no other questions for staff, let's hear. Let's see. Do we have any speakers besides? No. So, is there anybody else here that wishes to speak on this item before I call the applicants? Okay, it's Jack. All right. Let's hear from the applicants.
Great, and we have our agent here, Deborah Bulow, and also our contractor, Mark Rooney. So I don't know if you want me to answer your question about the signature or if Deborah wants to offer a comment first. Let me just see if Deborah wanted to weigh in.
Thank you, Heather. Hi, this is Deborah here. I think I'll let you answer that question, Heather. You're already kind of on the track.
Great.
As we were filing the application, we were sort of headed into that COVID period. And due to the death of the family, Heather's father passed away. She was in Massachusetts at the time of the filing. And I was able to get the paperwork in before things really kind of, just days before things really closed down in Arlington in terms of getting these applications in. So I signed on our behalf for both of us. But Heather and I.
Do you see the disclosure statement where your name is listed twice as an owner?
I do.
Is that intentional? Or did you intend to put Heather there?
Oh, I see. That should be, I think that was not intentional.
I think
that should be my name.
Okay. Mr. Melnick, do you see what's happened?
Oh yeah, it looks like maybe they cut and paste or something and just didn't change one of the names. And then, just, about the signatures, like, that's the other thing I noticed is Heather not signing the disclosure statement and neither of them signing the application. So from the staff's perspective, I'm the remedy, whether just on the record of this meeting, if that's enough.
I have the notarized copy of my signature on it.
Yeah, the copy that we have is not signed by you. The disclosure statement is signed, but not the actual application. Mr. Rissy, is this a material issue?
Not for staff. I'm happy to, the applicants are both here. They've testified they would like this application. I'm happy to follow up with them to get signatures and revised names where we need to.
Okay.
Great. We're back in town and happy to sign.
Mr. Melnick, do you have anything further?
No, I think that's fine. Thanks.
All right. So we sort of sidetracked you there. Is there anything you'd like to say about your application?
We are very grateful for your consideration, and we've really learned so much about Arlington as a result of this process, and we see how hard you work, and we're very grateful for your consideration. And I want to applaud my husband's work and reaching out to all of our neighbors. We have a lovely community, and they've been, as you've seen, just really supportive, and we're very grateful. And we're also grateful for the terrific team and Deborah and Mark. We know we're in very good hands. And I've promised to double check my work moving forward and make sure everything is signed.
And it was also enjoyable to reach out to some of the neighbors and the owners who grew up in this neighborhood many, many years ago and who've since moved on, but still the properties were passed down to their parents, and they still are very attached to the neighborhood. So it was nice to connect with them as well and hear about what it was like growing up here many years ago.
Well, you can see we're all beaming to hear this because part of our interest in making these contacts is some community building and getting to know your neighbors. So it's excellent.
You've succeeded. Thank you.
Any questions for the applicant?
Madam Chair, someone has their hand raised.
Yes, who's DB?
That would be the agent, Madam Chair.
I'm sorry. Yes. Hi, Deborah, the architect. I raised my hand to try and clarify the issue that you had earlier, but it's been clarified.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't see it sooner.
That's okay.
All right. Matters with the board. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, this is Paul Melnick.
Mr. Melnick.
I'd like to make a motion on this. Okay, so I'll move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached proposed resolution granting the use permit request with the conditions as stated. And also the additional condition of it expires if the building permit's not obtained within 3 years, as stated previously.
Yes.
And this is in case D1155220UP1.
So it's adding condition number 3 as an expiration.
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Freshman seconds the motion. Any further discussion? I will call the roll. Mr. Owen?
Aye.
Ms. Freshman?
Aye.
Mr. Melnick?
Aye.
Ms. Clark?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The motion passes 5-0, granting the use permit with conditions. So you're welcome. You are a poster
Thank you.
child here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Good evening.
You-
Mr. Rissy, would you call the next item, please?
Next item is case number V-11553-20-UP-2. The use permit request by Michael Thompson, the owner, to permit after-the-fact approval for a rear setback of 15 feet to the deck instead of 21 feet to the deck as required from the rear property line regarding after-the-fact approval of a new deck in the R6 zoning district on the premise known as 1508 North Highland Street. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution granting the use permit request with conditions.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Rissy. Are there any questions for staff?
Madam Chair, this is Paul Melnick.
Mr. Melnick.
So, Mr. Rizzi, I was wondering, did this whole issue come up due to a complaint to zoning enforcement?
I do not believe so, Mr. Melnick. I believe this was actually caught because of some other work the applicants were getting permitted and inspected.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for staff?
Do you have any photographs of what it looks like in back there?
That's all I have.
I would just say in general, as a note to staff, the things that we can't see from the street, I think it might be helpful in general to have an expectation somehow that photographs from the rear be included as part of the packet. I don't know what the right way to do that is, and maybe we can discuss that later and not during this item, but just as a general rule, it can be very helpful to have photographs like this.
I'm happy to discuss that later.
Yeah, Mr. Rissy, there's some text on page 4 of the staff report. Item number 4, referring to the property being proposed to be replaced.
Item number 4 is the next case, Madam Chair.
No, it's this case.
Okay.
Page 4.
Yes, it's wrong.
There's a section in here about this is being replaced with a larger single-family dwelling. That's extraneous?
Definitely.
Okay.
I hope not. This is Michael Thompson. We've just put a lot of time and energy into building this home.
Oh, it's not your turn. Hang on, we'll call you and you'll get to speak, but right now we're talking to staff. So any other questions for staff? I'm looking at my notes. All right. If no questions for staff, let's hear. Now it's your turn, Mr. Applicant. Mr. Thompson?
Well, good evening, Madam Chair. And,
do you have video? You got it.
I cannot seem to get it to work.
Okay.
For some reason, it is not allowing me to to connect with the video.
we-
However, can you hear me fine?
Yeah, we hear you fine.
Well, my wife and I lived in Arlington for 10 years. Just to give you a little background, we moved into this house 5 years ago, went through some reconstruction of the house about 3 years ago, and of which we were not able to finish the back part of this property at that time. So over the early springtime, we moved forward and tried to hardscape the backyard and make some improvements for us to be able to use the backyard, to include, which is now a small deck to transition from a back sliding glass door to the hardscape area that we had planned. At the time, we worked with the general contractor. We went through the process. At no time where we, had the understanding that we had to get this part permitted, or certainly we would have, done just that. It wasn't until after we found out we were in violation, which we had already had the majority of the deck constructed, and we have 4 children, 9 and under, that we just didn't, feel that it was safe to not put in the handrails. So we went ahead and finished out the deck. But that was in no way, shape, or form to not respect the rules or that are required by the county. We just didn't know at the time that was a requirement. So, we're just kindly asking that you, forgive our ignorance in this case, and after the fact, approve the special exception for this deck.
All right. Any questions for the applicant?
Madam Chair,
Mr. Owen?
it seems like we only got written feedback from one adjacent neighbor. Wondering what were the challenges to getting written feedback from the other 3 adjacent neighbors? In the rear? Well, there's also 2 in the front, but that doesn't matter because they can't see it.
Sure. I do know the Probascos and the Watsons are supportive. Jill, who is a neighbor that's really not adjacent to a property, but behind, Mr. Herbert's property, which is to, I believe, the gentleman who provided the letter of support. I did not have a conversation with her, but I had a conversation with our other neighbors. I know they're aware of this hearing, and I can certainly provide that after the fact, but they are supportive, and I believe Mr. Watson is on the docket this evening, and he can perhaps speak up. I don't believe he's registered to speak, so. But yeah, I'm sorry, we just failed to go out and request it. We did discuss the matter with them because they received written notification, but they seemed very supportive of it.
Do you remember getting a sheet, a 1-page or 2-page sheet that talked about the board's interest in getting written feedback from neighbors?
No, I did not. As part of the notification on the hearing.
Yeah, when you filed your application and when you were working with staff, did you get a note, and I forget what the title of it is, something like notice from the Board of Zoning Appeals, but it's a 1-page document that talks about our interest in getting written feedback from neighbors. So are you saying you don't think you received that? This is it. It's on the screen. You remember getting this?
I do not, but it's not to say that I didn't or we didn't receive it. My wife may have received it and opened it and read through it.
Mr. Rissig, when would he have received this?
Madam Chair, it's part of the BZA's application package that's available online. So anyone who has gone through and filled out the application, it would have been in that package. So that is now a long package, and this is pages 9 through 11 of that package.
Okay.
And Madam Chair, I believe that a neighbor who is here for another case may want to speak on this item, which may be why he has turned on his video.
Yes, ma'am, if I may. I'm Howard Watson. I'm the...
Hang on one sec. Hold it. Any other questions for the applicant? All right, Mr. Watson, can you state your name and your address?
Yes, ma'am. Howard Watson. I'm the owner of 1507 North Hancock Street, which is the property directly behind Mr. Thompson, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson's house. I offered my support to them, just did not put it in writing, and it is written support. Again, we own the property right behind you, so from where the triangle or where that red line is, right where the left side touches that little white building, that's the garage on the back of my property.
Mm-hmm.
So we immediately behind, we've known the Thompsons for years, fully supportive of this, of their issue on this, have no issue with the deck as constructed or whatever. We've worked with them on the building of their house, the backyard, the fence that we share on the common property line. We have no issue.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Board members, any other questions? We have the discussions with the board.
Motion?
Ms. Freshman?
It's no secret that after the fact applications are something that I generally don't support. However, I think this is fairly benign, and the new construction behind their house is going to be infinitely more disruptive for them. So I will move. Board of Zoning Appeals approve the attached proposed resolution approving use permit V-11559-320-UP-2 subject to the conditions.
Is there a second? Ms. Clark seconds the motion. Is there any further discussion? I will call the roll. Mr. Owen?
Aye.
Chair?
Ms. Freshman?
Wait,
Aye.
Ms.
Madam Chair.
Melnick? Somebody's trying to be recognized?
Yes, I was trying to be recognized. I just was trying to say, is there the condition about the 3-year expiration period?
It's already built.
Okay, you're right. I stand corrected.
All right.
Sorry.
That's good catch, Mr. Melnick.
The omission was intentional.
Yeah.
So
much of a trigger with that.
I have Mr. Owen as aye, Ms. Freshman as aye, Mr. Melnick?
I'm aye.
Aye. Ms. Clark?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. The motion to grant the use permit with conditions is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
You as well.
Mr. Rizzi, would you call the next item, please?
The next item is case number V-11554-20-UP-1. It is a use permit request by Colleen and Roger Lukin, the owners, to permit a street setback of 17 feet to the porch, 12.4 feet to the stormwater planter boxes, instead of 21 feet to the porch and planter boxes as required for North Tuckahoe Street, regarding a new front porch and stormwater planter boxes in the R6 zoning district on the premise known as 1804 North Tuckahoe Street. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution granting the use permit request with conditions. And I'd like you to please note there is supplemental material for this case that came in after the application packet was assembled and printed.
Thank you, Mr. Rizzi. Is there any questions for staff?
Madam Chair.
Mr. Owen?
Mr. Rissy, is it true that the supplemental materials consist of written support from neighbors at 1801 and 1806 North Tuckahoe Street?
That is correct. I assume you have the addresses correct. There's 2 letters of support.
1801, but not 1800 or the other 2 that sort of face it.
Madam
Okay.
Chair, I believe the missing adjacent neighbors are 1809 and 1805 and 1800 Tuckahoe Street, as well as, technically speaking, 1801, 1807, and 1811 North
Right.
Underwood Street, although
The
they're
rear,
much
the
of
rear neighbors, right. Okay,
It's a front porch.
got it. All right. Any other questions for staff?
This is Paul Melnick,
Mr.
Madam
Melnick.
Chair. So similar to the previous matter, just for the record, so that we can clarify. So it looks like only Roger Lucan signed the application, not Colleen, and nobody signed the disclosure statement.
That is correct.
Yeah.
All right. Is that, Mr. Rissy, is that a material issue here?
We can hear from the applicants, and if they can clarify it, staff can deal with the paperwork.
It's also not notarized.
Correct.
I mean, I'm not sure that the applicants would know whether that is a failure of the disclosure statement.
Staff is willing to follow up with the applicants to make sure the paperwork is in order after the hearing.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Owen.
we have the power to swear witnesses, so in addition to that, we might consider doing that on this occasion if there's anyone present who can be sworn to aver the necessary things.
Yeah, I'm a little bit leery of approving something where, you know, that significant information is missing. Do we know what an oath looks like?
I investigated this, Madam Chair. There's not a standard Virginia format for taking an oath. The main thing is to make sure the person states that they understand they're making statements under penalty of perjury.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for staff?
I guess I just have a general question about, this happens fairly often. It's happened twice so far in this hearing. And is there not a point at which there is an application as either is in final acceptance, and that goes to all of the supplemental material that seems to dribble in. But moreover, for reviewing the basic application for the kinds of omissions that we seem to find pretty much every hearing, it takes time, and it takes a leap of faith that maybe shouldn't be part of this meeting and should, you know, wait until the application is truly complete before we proceed.
In short, Ms. Rushman, no, we don't have any kind of, we have a application deadline. People submit what they submit. We try and get revisions from them throughout the process. It's something that, you know, does happen with regularity, as you say. And there have been cases where we have withheld things from going to the board, but we are not want to do so very often. People have the right to put in an application, and the Code of Virginia doesn't specify that this document needs to be signed or notarized, so we try and get what we can. And
indeed, Madam Chair, the Arlington Circuit Court has ruled that we have to hold a hearing on what they give to us, whether it's good or bad.
Whether the applicant, so there's no such thing as a complete application.
Or incomplete.
Complete applications all the time.
Or an incomplete application.
There are things that we will hold an application up for. If we are unable to review and write a advertisement that reflects what they need, we won't take the case forward. but that tends to be our standard. If we can understand what they're asking for and put it into an advertisement and present the case to you, we will do so.
Also, they have to pay.
Yes, you also have to.
Madam Chair, I have a question for Mr. Rissy.
Mr. Owen.
Is there time to advertise for the September 16th meeting?
Yes. Technically, the September 16th hearing was advertised in its first run today.
Yep.
We will advertise again in its second run next week, but there's still time to do a amendment or supplement to that.
Okay.
How many are on the agenda?
September 16, we are only taking 10.
I vote for that forever.
Madam Chair,
Mr.
I'd
Owen.
like to hear from any witnesses that we have today, but my inclination is to defer this to the 16th.
Mr. Rissy, do we have speakers and the applicant?
The only speakers we have signed up are the applicant, Madam Chair.
Okay, before I call the applicants, are there any other speakers here that wish to speak on this item? All right, hearing none, can we hear from either Colleen or Roger Lucan?
Okay. Hello, can you see me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hi, I'm Colleen Leakin. Thank you for taking our case. So my husband Roger and I are really excited about potentially putting a porch on our house because we live on the scenic WNOD trail where it shares a road with Tuckahoe Street. There's a lot of biking and pedestrian activity on our street, so we would love to be able to sit out on our porch to observe the activity. We also think that it will improve the look of our home and match with many of the other homes that are on the street that have front porches. And then finally, we think that having the front porch with an 8-foot clearance after the stairs up to our house will be a safer entryway for our small children and our parents to get into our house. Roger actually had something to say also regarding the paperwork. It is an oversight on my part not to have signed it. We kind of split duties and he was taking the paperwork. I just didn't know that I had to sign it.
Yeah, my apologies. I had gone to the county buildings multiple times and I believe had some materials notarized, but apparently not the correct one. So any oversight there is absolutely my fault and was not intentional. So my apologies on that.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant?
Madam Chair, I'm prepared to make a motion.
All right, before you do that, I just wanted to follow up with the applicant on neighborhood feedback. We're going to be looking for additional feedback from your neighbors. Were you aware that that was something that we had an interest in?
Sure. So we've been talking to our neighbors about it, and I believe 2 have submitted letters of support in favor of our porch. Our next door neighbors, Beth and Joe, and our diagonal neighbors, Hank Lewin. We also know that our neighbors across the street are supportive, and that they may not have been able to submit documentation saying that. And then actually one of the houses, I'm not sure what, it's the one across the street and to the right from us. Nobody lives there. It's actually been torn down and it's in the middle of construction. So we don't have anybody to talk to there.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Owen?
Madam Chair, I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals defer item V-11554-20-UP-1 to the September 16th, 2020 BZA meeting for the purpose of completing the application authorization, owner authorization, as well as completing the financial disclosure statement, as well as more complete written neighbor feedback from the neighbors along the adjacent neighbors along North Tuckahoe Street.
I'll second.
Ms. Freshman seconds the motion.
And I would just suggest to the applicants that in terms of neighborhood feedback, if you're going around talking to people, then if you can just draft up a little petition and have them sign it, name and address, it makes it easier for you and less burdensome for them as opposed to asking them to submit a letter. It's a lot quicker and easier for everybody.
Understood.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Owen?
I'll also say part of the reason we normally defer 2 months anytime we do a deferral. And the reason I'm willing to defer less than a month in this case is because I personally think that the substance of the application is good. You know, I think it would be a pretty easy approval if we had this critical paperwork done, unless we hear some information from the neighbors, you know, that asks us to ask more questions. But I just want to let the applicants know that this is a much shorter delay than we would normally do. And the reason is because you're pretty close. So if you work quickly, we might get you over the hump at our next meeting.
Sure. Yes, thank you.
So
we'll work with Mr. Rissy to understand better what we need to do to complete our application.
thank you. So the motion has been made by Mr. Owen, seconded by Ms. Freshman to defer to the September 16, 2020 meeting with 3 specific items. Any further discussion? I will call the roll. Mr. Owen?
Aye.
Ms. Freshman?
Aye.
Mr. Melnick?
Aye.
Ms. Clark?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The motion to defer passes 5-0. We will see you in September.
Thank you.
Mr. Rissy, will you call the next item, please? Oh, are you muted?
The next item is case number V-11555-20-UP-1. Is it a use permit request by Rekha Awer, the owner, to permit a street setback of 2.9 feet to the porch column and areaway, 2.3 feet to the porch eave from the South Grant Street, instead of 21 feet to the porch and areaway, 19 feet to the porch eave as required, and to permit a right side setback of 2.5 feet to the porch, 2.2 feet to the porch eave, and 1 foot to the air conditioner from the right side property line instead of 8 feet to the porch, 5 feet to the porch eave, and 5 feet to the air conditioner with screening as required. Regarding a new rear porch, areaway, and air conditioner on a corner lot in the R5 zoning district, premise known as 647 23rd Street South. Staff recommends the board adopt the attached proposed resolution, partially approving and partially denying the use permit request with conditions. An alternative proposed resolution has been provided should the BZA see fit to approve the case as advertised.
Thank you, Mr. Rissy. Any questions for staff? Ms. Freshman?
I have a little question, but also a little history. Mr. Rissy, do you have a suggestion on where to put the air conditioner if in fact we agree with staff not to put it where they want it?
I believe the applicant actually has some ideas she's been working with her contractor on.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to, I'm very familiar with this property. Across the street is a commercial property, which is the only commercial site that I recall ever do in my time on the BZA. And at the time that was being heard, the owner of this property didn't like it at all and was very, very upset, after which this property was completely redone. So all things happen for a reason.
All right, any further questions for staff? Is the applicant here?
The agent is.
So you are Mr. Cerny?
Correct.
Okay, let me check. Are there any other people here wishing to speak on this item? Okay, doesn't sound like it. Mr. Cerny, you are the registered agent for this. Is that right?
Correct,
Yes.
I'm the
Okay.
architect.
Okay, please, do you have anything you'd like to tell us?
We appreciate the staff report. We agree with the staff report, the conditions, and we're open to the recommendation that the air conditioner can be moved so that it complies with the 5 foot to the property line with screening.
All right. So you would be moving the air conditioning someplace where it does not need our approval. Is that right?
Correct. It would go to the other side of the steps down from that rear porch.
Oh, along South Grant Street.
Well, kind of more towards the center of the lot, actually. Just adjacent to the other side of the stairs, where if you have your application package on sheet number A3.
We may not have all the pages, but we do have we do have the plat that shows the physical improvements. Yeah.
Yeah, it's on the plat, page A3.
Okay, so if you look at the plat, there's a set of steps coming down right next to a 10-foot dimension.
Oh, I see it.
On the porch off the rear of the house. So just kind of to the left of that is where we put the air conditioning unit so that it's kind of equidistant from the two property lines. That's the closest we can get it to the shared with the 643 without needing relief.
Do you, is that below the grade of the deck there?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant's agent? So, Mr. Rissy, you are in agreement with this? That if we adopt staff's recommendation, the applicant needs no further relief from us or for placing the air conditioner?
Correct.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Melnick.
So if there's no other speakers, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Go ahead.
Okay, so in case V1155520 adopt the attached proposed resolution, which has in parentheses approval except AC unit, subject to the conditions as stated, including condition number 4, which contains the 3-year expiration date, as previously stated.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Freshman seconds. Is there any further discussion? I will call the roll. Mr. Owen?
Aye.
Ms. Freshman?
Aye.
Ms. Melnick? Mr. Melnick?
Aye.
Ms. Clark?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The recommendation to partially approve and partially deny the use permit with conditions has been adopted. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Mr. Rissy, would you call the next item, please? I'm getting a little feedback. Am I the only one? Could
No.
everybody, there we go. Ms. Drissy, will you call the next item?
The next item is case number V-11556-20-UP-1. It is a use permit request by Claudia Hogel, the owner, to permit a left side setback of 12 feet to the wall, 11.5 feet to the eave, and 12 feet to the deck from the left side property line, instead of 17 feet to the wall, 13.2 feet to the eave, and 13.2 feet to the deck as required, and to permit an aggregate side yard of 18.8 feet instead of 24 feet as required in the R10 zoning district, regarding a new side addition with garage underneath and rear deck in the R10 zoning district on the premise known as 5013 34th Road North. Staff recommends the board adopt the attached proposed resolution granting the use permit request with conditions. And I'd like you to please note that there is supplemental material for this case that came in after the application packet was assembled and printed. There's a couple of letters from the adjacent neighbors.
Okay, there's actually 1, 2, 3, probably 4. 3 or 4, okay. Any questions for staff?
Madam Chair,
Mr. Owen?
is it correct to deduce that the required 24-foot aggregate setback is calculated by taking 30% of the required minimum lot width of 80 feet for the zoning category, which is R10?
Correct.
And on a greenfield site, if there's no existing structure, what's the minimum left side setback?
Well, one side can be reduced as low as 8 feet, so long as the other makes up the remainder of the 24.
Okay, so so the only reason why there's an 18.8 foot requirement on the left side is because this parcel already has built out about 5 feet from the right side.
Correct.
But if that condition wasn't there, then they could build as close as 10 feet. Is that right?
If the other side
10 or
didn't
8.
exist, yeah, you could build as close as 8.
Okay. I think that's all my questions before we hear the testimony.
Any other questions for staff? All right, is the applicant here, Ms. Hogel?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
All right, let me ask, are there any other people here wishing to speak on this item that have not already signed up? Okay, doesn't sound like it. All right, Ms. Hogel, would you like to add anything to any information you'd like us to have?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Yes?
Matt, I'm having a little trouble seeing the applicant because I think the camera might not be centered.
Does that help?
Much better. Thank you so much.
Sure. I just wanted to say, I wanted to let you know that Chris Arnold is also on the line. He's with Foster Remodeling and may respond to certain questions. We appreciate the board's review of this and the staff's review of it. The proposed addition to the house is intended to facilitate aging in place. As a lifelong Arlingtonian, I'd like to remain in the county. The proposed design is consistent with other homes in the area, and we appreciate your consideration. And we have reached out to neighbors to socialize what is being done. We do have 5 supportive letters and 3 that raise some questions. And we'd like to point out that I've owned the house for 20 years, and we've been very mindful of runoff and have engaged specialists to manage the water runoff over the years. And we would be as mindful and hiring the same people to handle any water runoff that would be associated with the changes that we're making. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Questions for the applicant? So, I guess you were not able to get,
Madam Chair,
yes,
do we know how many speakers there are for this item?
I didn't see any.
So it's just the applicant.
Chris Arnold
and his agent.
Chris Arnold is also on the line in case there are any questions going
Right.
to the architectural component of it.
Yes, I did ask if there was anyone in the room that wished to be added, and there was no response.
Sorry, my apologies.
No problem. The most affected neighbor is the neighbor on your left, and you were not able to get response from them?
No, we did talk with him, and apparently he sent in a letter today. And his concern was about drainage, and for the last 20 years, he has not encountered any adverse drainage from the property, and we would be incredibly mindful in what we're going to do with the addition, that no drainage would go to his property. And I would also like to point out one other thing, as you have the visual in front of you. When I purchased the house 20 years ago, there was a 3-bedroom rambler behind my property that was subsequently bulldozed, and a 5,500 square foot house that has 5 bedrooms was replacing it. It did create water runoff when that happened, and we've managed all the water runoff with an expert's help, and again, we would use the same people for the addition.
Okay, thank you. All right, we have letters of concern, but those individuals are not present for us to talk with.
But you also have 5 supportive letters as well.
Yes. Makes it a little harder for us to see if we can't work something out.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Owen.
It appears that this proposal would involve the structure's entrance. So the proposal includes a retaining wall and then a garage. And so there's a front of the garage. And when I'm referring to the front of the garage, I'm not meaning to include the retaining wall, just the actual structure. And it appears to me that the proposal is for the front of the garage to come about 5 feet in front of the current wall of the front of the house. Am I reading the architectural drawings correctly? This is a question for the agent.
Chris?
Yeah, I'm looking at the plat right now. So it would move the garage forward several feet, but it would still be within the 25-foot setback of the front of the house. So the garage would be moving forward of the house, but still meet the setback requirement.
Yes. All right. Thank you.
And another concern that, are there other homes in the neighborhood that, exhibit a garage that is forward of the house? And Claudia was able to take some pictures in the neighborhood, and I have them available on the computer to share. But there are 2 neighbors that do have that condition where the garage is forward of the house.
Did you submit those to Mr. Rissy?
We just found, I guess, the objection today or the concern today, so we were not able to submit them in time.
Can you tell us the addresses?
Sure.
Sure.
One address that is very similar to this proposal is 3414 North George Mason Drive. And this has a garage that is forward, and it does have 2 retaining walls on either side of the garage. And the other example was on Williamsburg Drive.
What address?
I don't have that house address. Claudia, do you have that address?
Yeah, no, it's there's a stake in the front yard that says what it is. Just a second. If you blow up that picture, Chris, you can read it. It's
4857.
Sorry, 48?
4857.
57.
And this one, here's the garage is 2 feet forward of the main house.
Okay. So that's Williamsburg, sort of around the corner from you?
Yes, it's about a block and a half away.
Okay. But the George Mason one is further, right?
It's like 3 blocks.
3 blocks, okay. So I am not sure how to address the concerns about drainage without the concerned neighbor being here.
I think it's fair to say the concerned neighbor would not be able to make appearance. He's very ill. In other words, it wouldn't be possible.
Also, as the designer or builder, I can address maybe the cause of. So when we construct, the garage and the addition, the grade will still be in its current location. We will just be, cutting into the soil. So we are not going to be diverting any additional water towards his property. There will still be a drainage or a swale that will allow the water to still drain, on this property to the road.
And you'll have some kind of a drain in front of the garage.
Only if the grade is sloping back towards the house, but the street is still lower than the garage door. So any water that, collects or rains onto the driveway will drain, towards the street and towards the gutter on the road.
Okay, so it doesn't slope down towards the garage door.
No, the bottom of the garage or the floor of the garage will still be higher in elevation.
Okay.
So does this, Madam Chair?
Mr. Owen.
I note that we have more signatures on the disclosures here than we did on some of the last applications, but there's 2 owners and only 1 owner signature.
Well,
on the application.
Technically, I am the owner. I got married a couple of years ago, and we still haven't changed the paperwork on the house. So I am.
I see. So we have someone with an equitable interest, but the legal owner is the applicant.
Correct.
All right, great.
I'm the person with equitable interest is here too, if I need to statement.
Thank you. I have no further questions, Madam Chair.
Any other questions from my colleagues? We have Chris Arnold raising his hand. Is that do you wish to speak now, or are you just?
I had raised my hand earlier just to acknowledge that I was here. But,
okay, thank you. All right, discussions with the board?
Madam Chair,
Ms. Freshman,
I'm prepared to make a motion.
please.
I move the Board of Zoning Appeals approve the attached proposed resolution approving the use permit V-11556-20-UP1, subject to the conditions listed and with the additional condition of 3 years expiration.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Ms. Clark.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Owen.
I'm just, I'm going to oppose the motion because I do not think that the application meets our criteria. We are required to find that the footprint size and placement are similar to the structures in the property surrounding the subject property. And I don't think that the comps proposed by staff on page 3 of the staff report, nor the supplemental material provided by the applicant are close enough to constitute, by a reasonable definition, properties surrounding the subject property. None of them are close enough to see and be seen by the applicant's property. I would support some relief, maybe even enough relief to build a garage here or not, but I just don't feel like the evidence before us makes the required case that the surrounding properties have a size and placement of a structure like this. I don't think that they do.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? I will call the roll. Mr. Owen,
No.
Ms. Freshman,
Aye.
Mr. Melnick,
Aye.
Ms. Clark.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The motion to grant the use permit with conditions is approved on a vote of 4 to 1. Thank you.
Thank you
Good
very much.
evening.
Thank you.
Mr. Rissy, would you call the next item, please? Mr. Rissy.
Madam Chair, before I take the next item, I would just like to again remind guests who are waiting on later items to please turn off their video cameras so that we can see the board members and the applicant for the current item. With that said, the next case is case number V-11557-20-UP-1. It is a use permit request by Howard Watson, the owner, to prevent a street setback of 18.1 feet to the building wall, 16.1 feet to the eave, and 15.1 feet to the porch instead of 25 feet to the wall, 21 feet to the building eave and porch as required from North Hancock Street, and to permit a left side setback of 7.7 feet to the walls and rear porch deck and 5.4 feet to the areaway instead of 10 feet to the wall and porch, 6 feet to the areaways as required, and to permit a right side setback of 8 feet to the wall instead of 10 feet as required, and to permit an aggregate setback of 15.7 feet instead of 18 feet as required in the R6 zoning district, and to permit rear setbacks of 15 feet to the chimney and fire pits, 15.8 feet to the wall, 13.4 feet to the eave instead of 23.5 feet to the chimneys and fire pits, 25 feet to the wall, 21 feet to the eaves as required. Regarding a new single-family dwelling in the R6 zoning district on the premise known as 1507 North Hancock Street. Staff recommends that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached proposed resolution granting the use permit request with conditions. I'd like to please note that there is supplemental material for this case that came in after the application packet was assembled and printed, and we do have additional speakers for this item.
Thank you, Mr. Rissy. Any questions for staff? Ms. Freshman.
There seems to be some dispute about the health of the ginormous tree that's slated to be removed. Have we had any county people look at it, or are we just relying on a observation of neighbors and others?
I don't have any consultation from the urban forestry group.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions for staff?
Madam Chair, this is Paul Melnick.
Mr. Melnick.
Just like on some of the other ones, I just note for the record that the application is not signed. So if we can get just affirmation that in fact, they, even as a part of our record here, they want to adopt that.
Okay, we'll ask the applicant. Other questions for Mr. Rissy? I have one. What is the max lot coverage on this site with the, I guess, with the porch, right?
Madam Chair, I would have to consult the zoning ordinance for that.
Would you do that? They're asking, they're at 43, and I believe that may be the max, the total max with a porch.
Madam Chair, in the R6 zoning district, the maximum lot coverage for a one-family dwelling with a qualifying front porch is 43%.
So they are exactly at the maximum.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for staff? Mr. Watson. Oh. Who's speaking? Mr. Watson. Could you unmute yourself?
Sorry about that.
No problem. Is there anything you'd like to add to the discussion? Do you have anything you'd like to say on behalf of your application? Mr. Watson, you're muted.
It looks like Mr. Watson's adjusting his microphone.
Okay.
Hi, sorry about that. For some reason, the speaker on my computer's not working. I'm here.
All right. Is there anything you'd like to say on behalf of your application?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, Madam Chair, BZA members, staff, and future neighbors. I'm Howard Watson, the applicant, and I'm a native Arlingtonian. With me is my wife, Mary Beth Clissa. We appreciate the opportunity to explain our project. We also appreciate the BZA staff's professionalism, thorough research, and clear recommendation that our use permit be approved. Along with our neighbors at 1511, the Proboscos, 1507 Hancock has remained in the same family across multiple generations. In our case, since 1960, when my parents moved in next to the Steins, Myra Probosco's grandparents. For 58 plus years, 1507 has been the home for countless renters, including Michael and Julia Thompson, our neighbors behind us, whose case you heard approved earlier, who lived in our house while their new one was constructed. As responsible landlords, our family has cared about 1507 and all of Hancock Street. We have picked tenants who would be good neighbors to the permanent residents. Admittedly, some were better than others. We've always been cognizant that we had an obligation to maintain it both for its inhabitants and for the good of the neighborhood. But the little 82-year-old original clapboard siding bungalow is tired and a challenge to keep going. Mary Beth and I have a unique design to replace the tired house and hope to incorporate parts of the old into the new. Our modern home will be tasteful and elegant and enhance the beauty of and add value to other homes on Hancock Street. As staff clearly states, it will not be, quote, detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to property or improvements in the neighborhood, unquote. Throughout this process, we proactively solicited feedback from neighbors. As an example, our original design aligned the house parallel to the left side property line, which angles inward from the front. This would have made our house appear cocked in relation to others on either side, and it put the right corner 5.5 feet from 1501 Hancock's garage. Our neighbor at 1501 felt this would create an unsafe condition, and while permissible by code, that was obviously unnecessarily close. Pivoting the house to right side parallel brought us to an undeniably safe standard 8-foot setback. It was a foolish error, and it was her feedback that made the overall project much better. We will continue to be accepting of suggestions as we enter into the design and build phases. As you know, our lot is undersized and irregularly shaped, so it makes fitting a new house on such a lot very challenging. Our current design would use existing right side natural and man-made elements to provide both us and our neighbors with maximum privacy and main house separation. There would be 8+ feet of open area on our lot, the existing 4-foot high common privacy fence and 3 large trees, and 15.5 feet of 1501's existing driveway to provide almost 24 feet of separation between our house and 1501, which has no doors or true ground floor windows facing our property. Because the large trees already provide a visual break between properties, there will be no new impacts to 1501's internal living spaces from our house. This is true whether our house is sited at an 8-foot or 10-foot setback. Reversing our design would be significantly more impactful to neighbors. Except for a few low bushes, there are no natural or existing features like a fence or trees to provide separation from our current driveway. It essentially abuts 1511's right side. 1511 is to our left. Because 1511's main house is about 2 feet off the property line at its front right corner, a new left driveway and retaining wall would still be very close to their living room, which has windows at ground level facing our property. We desire not to add privacy fences or other barriers. This alignment also prevents the county from bearing the unneeded expense of relocating the existing water service. Second, the proposed design maximizes outdoor space separations. If reversed, our spaces would be starting at 1501 solid side garage and overlooking 1504 Highlands backyard. As an aside, we worked closely with 1501's previous owners to clear brush and install the common fence. When they asked for our agreement on a replacement garage, we willingly gave it because it was to be built as a garage, not a guest house, in-law suite, ADU, or other overnight structure for overnight guests. There are no windows or doors that face our property, only a cement board exterior. And the pictures in the supplemental show the approximate 8 to 10 feet of parallel overlap. With over 9 feet of total separation, its placement will exceed the 5-foot minimum safe separation distance measured to the property line, required by the International Residential Code. There's also 10 feet of linear privacy fence. I see I'm about out of time. I can address questions as from the BZA as necessary.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Owen.
I'll just note that the applicant submitted a pretty significant volume of material prior to the hearing tonight as a supplement, and that information is available at the hearing link that staff provided earlier. If there are any neighbors here testifying, I would encourage them to find and review that material, as some of it may respond to concerns that they have articulated. I want to thank the applicant for providing that additional material, and I would be curious to know if the applicant has any additional comments to add in response to the questions that staff passed on earlier in the week.
Yes, sir. I think in some of the supplemental information, you'll see an email back to Mr. Rissy that addressed some of the concerns that have been brought up from the BZA members regarding, which is why I tried to blow through my comments quickly to address the issue of reversing the design. But my email is in there in response to those earlier questions.
I thought that material was really helpful. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Watson, I just want to clarify, since the application wasn't signed, you are Howard Watson and you are this is your application.
Yes, and I see that we signed the disclosure statement, but not the application.
Yeah, and I note that the business about the fee being filed, the fee and stuff is not included, but I assume staff, that's a staff worry, not our worry. And I note that there are 2 owners, Howard Watson and Robert Watson.
That's correct. He's also on the call.
Okay. All right. If there's no other question, Mr. Watson is Robert Watson. has raised his hand. All right. To acknowledge that you're here.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Any other questions for staff before we hear from the speakers? I mean, I'm sorry, any questions for the applicants before we hear from? All right, let's, Mr. Rissy, will you call the speakers? Oh, you're muted, I think.
The next speaker is Jill Parks, who is online with her video already.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Chair. I'm Jill Parks, and I live at 1501 North Hancock Street, adjacent to the applicant. I am fully in support of my son's testimony, who's going to go after me, and he's going to talk about the tree that's going to be removed with the applicant's project. But I'm here primarily to speak about the applicant's requested right side setback reduction. My predecessors built an accessory structure on my property in conformance with the zoning ordinance to serve as a guest suite or in-law suite. It was never intended to be a garage. The structure is located 1 foot from the applicant and my shared property line. The applicant is requesting a reduction in the county's minimum side yard setbacks for the R6 district, which will place his new home within 9 feet of that guest house. If you're looking at the picture, you can see the fence line and the yellow door right behind it. That door, that structure is my guest house, and it is a residential dwelling unit. The applicant stated that there will be no new impacts on my property or on that structure, and that's just patently false. If he's going to put an enormous structure within 9 feet of that dwelling, that's definitely going to impact it. He is citing for you the proximity of the structure to my driveway, which is over quite a bit, and not to this actual accessory dwelling unit. I've been in regular contact with both the applicant and the staff coordinator since the commencement of this case, and I have voiced my concerns throughout the process. The applicant is correct. He did address my initial concerns, and I really do appreciate him doing so. But I was told that in response to my initial concern, he would be meeting the county's minimum setbacks on that side, which I was told were 8 feet. I've since learned that they are actually 10 feet, and he's still asking for a reduction. Now, it's his burden to prove that there is a case for this reduction, and I don't think that he's done so. I don't think there's cause whatsoever. And in fact, I think that he's creating a real detriment on my property and an impairment to the value of my property. I believe that permitting the applicant to construct his project so close to our common property line will cause a material and adverse impact on the habitability of my accessory dwelling unit, resulting in an impairment to the value of my property. I'm generally supportive of redevelopment, but I don't think there's a justification here. I'm simply asking for the applicant to adjust by 2 more feet and meet the county's minimum standards. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Park. Mr. Rissy, next speaker.
The next speaker is Aiden Parks.
Hello, Aiden.
Hi.
Do you have something you want to tell us?
Yes. Hello, I am Aiden Parks. I live at 1501 North Hancock Street, which is next door to Mr. Watson's house, and I am here to testify about the tree that may come down. First, I think that the tree should not come down because it is a beautiful and healthy tree. Second, it is the county's tree and it is enjoyed by the whole community. Next, I like to look at it every day, wondering how beautiful a tree can get. In conclusion, I think the tree should not come down.
Thank you very much, Mr. Parks. Mr. Rissy, would you call the next speaker?
The next speaker signed up is Julia Thompson.
Yes, hi, Madam.
Oops. Hi, how are you? You broke up a little bit.
Madam Chair, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you so much. My name's Julia Thompson. I'm here with my husband, Michael Thompson, who's the next speaker. And
what is your address? I'm sorry, what is your address, Ms. Thompson?
1508 North Highland Street.
All right. Thank you.
We live directly behind Howard and Maribeth. Sorry, I've got a baby. All right. Sorry. We have a full house husband, Michael, that I'm speaking with. So perhaps you could add our time together. He's taking care of our baby right now. We also have 4 kids. And my husband testified earlier tonight. We also have mother-in-laws with our house as well sometimes. Howard has been our neighbor since we moved into the neighborhood, and also our landlord as well. I'm here to testify on behalf of Howard and also the home that he is proposing to build on his property. Howard is kind, honorable, has worked tirelessly throughout this entire process with all of his neighbors on all sides to discuss his plans for the home and also address any concern. And I think has been fairly successful, as you can see by the letters of support. The proposed home, we believe, is lovely. And I think one of the things that I like best about it is that it's from a different architect and builder than the typical Arlington home. I think it adds variety to the community, and it adds variety to the community, and it's not another spec build as you see so often in Lion Village these days. Also, I want to reiterate that Howard has lived in this community since before most of us ever heard of Lion Village or moved into the neighborhood, and we are absolutely in support of him continuing to live in his home, albeit upgraded, so that he can have space for his children and grandchildren when they come to visit.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. Mr. Rissy, next speaker.
The next speaker on the list is Michael Thompson, who
shares a monitor.
I don't think he has anything else to add, but he is right here if you do want to hear from him.
All right. Well,
I'm sorry. Good evening. I'm just with baby, so a little distracted right now. But that said, I fully support all of Julia's comments and Howard's submission for special exception. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson.
Mr. Rissy? Is there another speaker?
The next speaker on the list is Meredith Reeves.
Good evening, and thank you for your time. I'm not sure if I'm coming up on the screen, but
do you have your camera on?
I did, and then okay, I'm here. Good evening.
There you go.
So,
what is your address, please?
Oh, yes, thank you. 1500 North Hancock Street.
Thank you.
So my husband and I have actually lived at 1507 North Hancock Street for a matter of 11 and a half months. So we're very familiar with the property. We support Howard 110% on this. I'm actually here to speak on the tree because the tree was a point of note when we were renting from Howard. That tree is damaged and unhealthy. Multiple heavy branches have fallen on the roof of his current structure there. And it was almost to the point of fear when I'd go to sleep at night if we had high winds or heavy rain. So I really implore the county, they really need to come out and take a good hard look at that tree. I did send in photographic evidence that the roots are displacing the sidewalk. I have a young child who likes to ride her scooter on the sidewalk with some of her neighborhood friends. And if anything happened to her, her friends, or any of the neighbors' children, I wouldn't know what to do. I'd be so upset. So trees can sometimes be dangerous. I did give 2 examples of catastrophic experiences with close friends of mine. One actually died from a huge limb coming down and striking her in the head. And we just really need to take care of that. It's displacing the sidewalk and the roots are growing up on the property. So I would recommend that the approval of this project and also the removal of that tree. It's not a healthy tree. More trees can be and will be planted to increase the canopy of Lion Village, North Hancock Street, and especially 1507. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Reeves. Mr. Rissy, are there any other speakers?
Madam Chair, that concludes the list of speakers who signed up in advance.
Okay, I don't believe we had any other speakers in the room tonight. Any questions for the applicant or witnesses?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Owen.
I don't know this is so much of a question as it is a comment. But as you pointed out, the coverage for this is at the absolute maximum that's permitted by law. And we sometimes have situations where once something is built, you know, some footing or something is out of place and they're 2 or 5 or 15 feet over what was in the drawings, and they come back for a variance for coverage because of the builder mistake for as built. And I just would encourage the applicant to and their builders to be very mindful of the fact that they've built no room for error whatsoever, because a variance is by no means guaranteed in this kind of situation. And sometimes what people have to do is tear things off of the property to account for the mistake. So I just want to observe that this is a high risk situation because any builder error could wind up being very costly indeed. And then I also have a question for staff. Mr. Rissy, this lot is less than 6,000 square feet, and it appears that the applicant is removing the existing foundations of the house. Is that right?
I think that's a better question for the applicant, but that is my understanding.
Okay, and so why is it that this parcel does not need a variance to be a buildable lot under 6,000 square feet and the existing structure is supposed to be removed entirely?
I'm assuming the applicant has provided staff with the evidence necessary to show that the lot was in existence prior to the zoning ordinance adoption July 15th.
Oh, I see. If the lot was zoned R6 or the R6 lot minimum lot size post dates the creation of the lot, then they don't need this 6,000 square feet.
Predates, but yes.
If the lot was under 6,000 square feet before the zoning said it had to be 6,000 square feet, then it's okay.
Correct.
Okay.
In this zoning district and some others, not all. But
okay. Okay. Thank you. Because we had the one next to the Heidelberg Bakery where we had to give a variance, and so that must.
Is in RA zoning district, I believe, which does not have the same permission.
Thank you.
Ms. Freshman.
Just another parenthetical. If you haven't been to the one next to Heidelberg Bakery, go by there and see what they actually built. It's quite amazing. It's quite amazing.
Other questions for the applicant? I have a question. It relates to my inquiry about the maximum lot coverage. Since this is a new build and you really have no constraints, what was your reasoning for not creating a structure that you could build by right?
I'm sorry, can you hear me now? Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, obviously, as you've seen, it's a small, irregular shaped lot. So in order to do by right, completely by right, would be very difficult because of the way the lot angles at the back. On the width, I think part of the issue was a misinterpretation on our part as to how the setbacks on the side actually work with the 10-foot and the 8-foot But the building totally by right would be very difficult given the irregular shape of the lot.
Okay. Another question I have is that Miss Park testified that she had an initial understanding that you would be meeting the setback to her home. Can you comment on that?
Yes.
It goes to what I just alluded to, which was as in my comments, and she mentioned we had originally aligned this thing to the left property line, which angled from the front. So we had the house would sit kind of cattywampus between the two houses on either side, hers and 1511. So when we pivoted it, made it right, parallel to the right side, that put it at 8-foot setback. And again, our interpretation was, okay, well, we're 8 on that side. That's good. We didn't need to ask for permission on that side. Once we submitted the application and updated it with Mr. Rissy, he clarified that the interpretation that you have to have the 10-foot in order to get 8 on the other side. So in this situation, we have to ask for relief on the left and relief on the right because we don't have the 10-foot on the left. So when I talked to Ms. Parks via email, I said, we meet the setback. Again, it was because of the interpretation. We met the minimum 8, not understanding the caveat about the 10 on the other side. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. What is, the next question, what is your understanding of who owns the tree that we're discussing?
So
it is a county tree. It has, as Mrs. Reeves pointed out, it's been good and bad. I didn't get to it in my remarks, but over the years it has damaged the roof. It has busted the gutters off. It's broken the flashing on the front of the house. It's landed on the roof, and she submitted, so they kind of speak for themselves. But it is a county tree, and we have been in touch with Urban Forestry about the tree. They have given us the direction as to how many we have to replace. What the ratio is, depending upon what kind of tree, 2 to 1, 3 to 1. And again, I don't think I got to it, but if we move the driveway to the right side and take out the existing driveway on the left, that will give us a longer contiguous median strip there for new trees. And part of our conversation with Urban Forestry and the Proboscos at 1511 was we would have additional trees planted, including one that is right on the left side of the existing driveway. Well, it was taken out by the county last year because the tree was dying. So we would include one in front of her property, and then however many, whatever the spacing is deemed appropriate by Urban Forestry across the new front.
Forgive me if this is in your application, but did you seek any determination from an arborist regarding the health of the tree?
yes, yes.
I'm sorry. Yes, Urban Forestry did come out and take a look at it. I think they said yes, it's a healthy maple tree, but when we talked to them about the removal of it, they said okay, it would be evaluated as part of our application. I would also say 2 things. One, several things. The cable line that comes off of the pole across the street is intertwined in that tree. It is pushing up the sidewalk, as Mrs. Reeves said. It is also impacting the existing sewer line from our property, and I know that from a fact because we had to have the pipes roto-rooted last year because of the damage from not only that tree but other trees as the sewer line runs through there. So it would be certainly impacted during construction. Obviously, we would do our best if we were switching the other side, but it's very likely that construction is going to damage that, would not intentionally, but could be a product of that. And then, as we also mentioned, the water meter, where the current water meter is, if we were to reverse the design, would cause the water meter to have to be relocated.
Okay. I'll ask one more question and then we'll see if my colleagues. So this is a 3-story house, correct?
That's.
But is there a setback from the front? Is it 3 stories all the way to the front?
Yes.
Okay.
On one side. on the left-hand side, it's 3 stories up. It's really 2 above grade on the right.
Okay. All right. Any other questions from my colleagues?
Madam Chair,
Mr. Owen?
I have a comment for one of the speakers, Mr. Aiden Parks. Is he still available? Mr. Parks, thank you for your testimony tonight. I wanted to let you know, and if this seems complicated, your mom might be able to help you understand it later, but I wanted to let you know that the Board of Zoning Appeals wrote a letter to the county board asking for their help in understanding how to protect trees better when we do our work. And the county board has not written us back. And we want to hear back from the county board their response to our letter so we can save more trees. So if you feel like you'd like to testify again sometime, I would encourage you to testify before the county board and ask them to answer our letter. That would be very helpful to us. So that might be something you could consider doing to help save more trees.
Totally.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you kind of got the hang of this testifying.
Thank you for your help, Mr. Parks.
Thank you.
Ask them for help answering our letter about trees.
I will.
And Mr. Rissy can help you find the letter. The letter might be a little difficult to find, but Mr. Rissy can help you find the letter that we need an answer to.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Any other questions for the applicant or any of the other speakers? All right. Then looks like the matter's with the board. Any further discussion? Is there a motion?
I would also, well, I'll wait till after the motion, sorry.
Madam Chair?
Mr. Melnick?
So I'm prepared to make a motion.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm sympathetic just to say everything I've heard, but I do think, I'd like to make a motion in case V11557020UP1 that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached proposed resolution granting the use permit request with conditions as stated, including a condition, number 4, which includes the 3-year expiration date.
Thank you, Mr. Melnick. Is there a second?
Ms. Freshman.
Second.
Any discussion?
Madam Chair.
Mr. Owen?
I just want to thank all of the participants tonight, the applicants and the neighbors. I think that it was just so helpful to have all the testimony and all of the extra work that the applicants did to prepare for tonight's hearing. I think I was really wondering how we would not have to have a deferral on this, but in fact, all the information did make it into us today. And I'm just very grateful for that. So thank you.
Any other comments? I will note that while your neighbors are all approving of this house, it is a very large house. And so it might not seem as compatible as some of the other houses in your neighborhood, but you have support from most of your neighbors, and so I'm willing to support the motion.
Oh, Madam Chair, one more thing.
Mr. Owen.
I would just say I carefully evaluated, as I'm sure my colleagues did, the concerns of the right side neighbor about the amount of space on the right-hand side, and this is seems to me a common amount of available space between structures that we have in many other places in the county. So, so that's why I'm willing to vote in favor of the proposal.
If no other comments, I'll call the roll. Mr. Owen?
Aye.
Ms. Freshman?
Aye.
Mr. Melnick?
Aye.
Ms. Clark?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The motion to grant the use permit is approved, adopted on a vote of 5-0. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Good night, Mr. Parks.
Good night. Thank you very much. This is Robert Watson. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Mr. Rizzi, will you call the next case?
Yes, the next case is case number V-11558-UP-20-UP-1. It is a use permit request by Kyle Rouster and Kathleen Raidu, the owners, to permit a street setback of 19.2 feet to the building wall, 18.3 feet to the eave, instead of 25 feet to the building wall, 21 feet to the eave as required from North Columbus Street, to permit a street setback of 16.7 feet to the deck instead of 21 feet to the deck as required, to permit a street setback of 20.1 feet to the fireplace bay instead of 23.5 feet as required, regarding a new two-story rear addition, rear deck, and fireplace bay to an existing one-family non-conforming dwelling on a corner lot in the R6 zoning district on the premise known as 4844 25th Road North. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution granting the use permit request with conditions. And I would like you to please note that there is supplemental material for this case that came in after the application packet was assembled and printed. It is, in essence, a presentation from the applicant and their agent.
Thank you, Mr. Rissi. That's it. There were no comments from neighbors that were submitted. It's this package is all from the applicant.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Any questions for staff?
Madam Chair.
Mr. Owen?
On the drawings, it looks kind of like there's an areaway with either a 6.9 or 7.2 foot separation from the left side property line. Does that need to have relief as well as what else is being requested? Does there need to be left side relief here?
Staff is unaware of any requirement for left side reductions.
What is the requirement for an areaway setback?
Areaways are given a 4-foot encroachment allowance, but cannot be closer than 5 feet to a 8-foot side property line. On a corner lot, the side can be as low as 8 feet.
That was a mouthful. All right.
I'm sorry, what has to be 8 feet?
On a corner lot, the side setback is 8 feet because the rear setback is a required 10 feet. A areaway can encroach up to 5 feet on an 8-foot side property line.
So it can be 3 foot from the property line.
No, it can encroach up to 5 feet from the property line. It is stated as it is given a 4-foot encroachment, but only up to 5 feet. So on an 8-foot property, you actually only get 3 feet of encroachment, and it must be 5 feet from the side property line.
And this looks like it's 6'9" to 7'2".
Correct.
So it's 1.8 feet, and they actually have a little bit more room available.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions of staff? All right. It's the speaker list. All right. Besides the applicant and their agent, are there any other speakers that wish to speak tonight that didn't sign up? All right. Hearing none. Mr. Royster or Ms. Bordeaux?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Kyle Royster. This is my wife, Catherine Bordeaux.
Okay, I'm trying to find you, but
you see us, our
there we are. Gotcha.
So I'm not sure if it's 100% working.
I see you.
Okay.
Okay, good.
I think the application provides the material that I hope that you need to make a decision. We want to thank you and the board and the staff, especially for, pulling together the material and also going through, this time to catch up with the applications. And it's been great by Mr. Reese and his staff. So I don't think that we have anything to add. The one question we received from staff, one of three, was about the tree that's on the side of our house. I just wanted to say that we fully intend on keeping that tree. We love that tree. Our 2-year-old swing hangs from it. So that's a very important tree to us. We've been trying to keep it healthy since we moved in about 3 years ago. I think there were some other questions about the height, and we tried to provide some information in the supplemental material for that. So hopefully you've had a chance to look into that. If not, we can provide more information. But other than that, if you have any questions, we're standing by here to answer them for you.
Okay. I'm just checking. Do you have? I'm looking for comments from the neighbors. I guess.
I think that we heard the neighbor dial in, our neighbor Bud, but I'm not sure if he's here still or.
All right.
We did provide a sheet with the.
There. Yeah, I'm looking at it. So you have 48, the property behind you, 4837 25th Street.
Yes, ma'am.
So do you have something from them?
So I'll let my wife address it. We did. Go ahead.
So we went house to house to provide them a packet. They are currently renters, and I believe the owner is out of state. We have never ever actually met the owner. I think our builder, Brett, can speak to this, but we sent them certified mail. When I spoke to the renters, they were supportive, but I'm not sure if that is what you're looking for. But sure. As far as written feedback, we have not received a response from the owner of that property.
Okay. But you did send them notice?
Yes.
Yes, we sent them, okay. Our agent sent them a certified letter.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. All right, thank you. Any other questions for the applicant?
This is Bud Matney. We were just listening in.
Excuse me, who are you part of this? Are you a neighbor?
I'm across the street from them.
All right, so you wish to speak on this item?
I just wanted to reinforce that we do.
Okay, could you give me your name, please? Just sorry.
Bud Matney, or you have it as Bascom, B-A-S-C-O-M, middle initial B, and last name Matney, M-A-T-N-E-Y.
And you live at 4845?
No, 4841.
4841. Okay, go ahead.
We're diagonally across from them.
Got it.
No, we did not submit comments, but I just wanted to state that we reinforce and approve of what they're doing. From what we know, it's just a single family expansion, somewhat similar to what we did some number of years ago. We ask that when the construction crew comes in, they be a little helpful in relation to just make sure that we can park on one corner of our lot. Otherwise, we're very happy. And I just wanted to give you our input that, as far as I know, and talking to other people around, I've heard no one that has any opposition whatsoever. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Matney. Mr. Royster, you heard the concerns about construction. I think that's something I'm sure you'll be cooperative about.
Yes, Madam Chair. We'd like to just thank Mr. Matney for taking the time to sit through this long meeting and provide his feedback and support. And we will definitely be considerate over any matters of inconvenience that he faces. We talked to our agent already about making sure that's a priority for the crews that come in. We know it's an inconvenience, and our builder has agreed to do the outreach as well throughout the build process to make sure that we are neighbors or have a minimal impact on it.
That's terrific. Thank you. Any other questions? Matters with the board?
Madam Chair.
Mr. Owen.
I in case V-11558-20-UP-1, I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached proposed resolution granting the use permit request with conditions and the additional condition number 4 regarding the 3-year time limit.
Thank you. Motion seconded by Ms. Clark. Any further discussion?
Madam Chair, I thought once again that the supplementary material provided by the applicant was extremely helpful to quickly resolving this item.
If there are no other questions, I'll call the roll. Mr. Owen?
Aye.
Ms. Freshman?
Aye.
Mr. Melnick?
Aye.
Ms. Clark?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The use permit is granted on a vote of 5-0. Thank you very much, everyone. Good luck with your project.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Rissy? Next item, please.
Yes, the next item is case number V-11559-20-UP-1. It is a use permit request by Kelly and Joel Minton. The owners permit a fence height of 6 feet at the property line along North Hudson Street instead of 4 feet as required, regarding a new fence on a corner lot in the R6 zoning district on the premise known as 3188 Key Boulevard. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution denying the use permit request. An alternative proposed resolution has been provided should the board see fit to approve the use permit request as advertised. And I'd like you to please note that there is supplemental material for this case that came in after the application packet was assembled and printed. There are some emails and photo, I believe, from the applicant.
Thank you, Mr. Rissy. Any questions for staff? Ms. Freshman?
Stephen, do you know what the height of the existing fence is that we're looking at?
But I'm guessing
we did.
Okay, I couldn't understand.
Yes, the fence, this is Joel Minton.
Hang on. We'll call on you.
Okay.
Mr. Rissy, so no specific information?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay.
It's being built right on the property line as proposed?
Correct.
So the proposal is to build right at the back of the curb, right?
My understanding is it would be 3 feet in from its current placement, which I think would still leave some separation from the curb, but
3 feet in or 3 feet out towards the street?
3 feet closer to the street. My understanding is that the current fence is 3 feet back from the property line.
Madam Chair?
Mr. Melnick.
Is there a picture? I was trying to look for a picture of the current fence. I see an example, like of
it's
the new.
Right on the screen.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's really small. Sorry.
You can make it bigger.
Yeah. Okay, I see it. Thanks a lot.
So what we're missing is what's the distance between the curb and the property line? Is there a place on the plat, any of the plats or any of the drawings that shows the distance between the curb and the property line?
Well, the original plat shows a fence. It shows a fence
the plat that shows a lot of red lettering shows it literally on the property line.
Right.
It doesn't help. It doesn't tell us how far that is from the curb, existing curb.
Sometimes the property line's behind the curb, sometimes it's at the curb, and sometimes it's in front of the curb.
Right.
So potentially, if the property line extends into the gutter, that's where the fence would go.
Nuh-uh.
Mr. Rissy, do they need relief from us to build on the property line?
Yes, absolutely. Well,
this is only talking about
only, yes,
height.
they only need relief for the height. They have the right to build a 4-foot fence within the first 3 feet back from the property line.
Wait a minute. But do they have a right to build on the property line?
So long as it is on their property, they have a right to build. Yes.
Up to 4 feet, but not to 6 feet.
Correct.
Okay.
So the only reason they're here is because they want the extra 2 feet above the 4 feet that they can do by right.
Correct.
Right.
And they're going to move it. It's going to be a longer fence, right? They're moving it to so that it's set. Right now, it's set back from the front of the house, and it's going to be set to the front.
Correct. I will note that while the plat does not show the edge of curb, I do believe that there is a small easement indicated to the right of the property line. Again, I can't say whether that easement includes any of the roadbed or not, but that is what I believe is indicated in that area.
You're talking about that shaded line?
The lighter gray line that comes to a point at the corner, I believe that used to be part of the property and was an easement bought by the county at some junction along the way.
It looks kind of like the width of a gutter.
But as you understand it, Stephen, the fence would be longer and higher and potentially closer to the street?
Yes.
As a solid wall, right?
Correct. It would be longer along the street. It would be higher. Well, I think the applicants have to tell us how tall it is. It might be as tall as the existing fence. I'm getting a hot head nod. But it would be longer along the street. I think if I can try and point out to everyone, this isn't guaranteed, but you can see a change in the pavement where my cursor is along the driveway.
Yeah.
It is my assumption that that is the edge of the property and that the portion sloping down, the apron, is in the county's road right-of-way, and the portion going back. So there would be, it appears to be as much as a couple of feet of grass between the proposed fence location and the road bed if the fence was built at the property line. I'm getting a lot of head nods from the applicant and their agent, so I think I may be onto something with that.
All right. Well, we'll find out what information the applicant has that can help us. Is there any other questions for staff? All right, and let's look at speakers. All right, right now we have no additional speakers besides the applicant and their agent. Is that correct? There's no one else here that wishes to speak on this? All right. All right, now, Mr. and Mrs. Minton, it's your turn.
Well, first, hello, and thank you for the time this evening. I'm Kelly, and this is Joel Minton, and we're joined today by our architect, Bob. Bob, are you on the line?
We see him.
You see him? Okay, we don't see him at all. We trust he's there.
He's there. He's waving at you.
Oh, he is. Okay. Well, hi, Bob. So earlier this week, Mr. Rizzi submitted our background. We're originally from California, but we moved here about 4 years ago. And we bought our traditional colonial house last summer and spent the last 6 months basically renovating and restoring it with Bob. So it looks a little bit different from the past pictures you may have seen. So in addition to the application information that you have in front of you, we'd like to provide additional details that support our request. So first, I just wanted to make sure that you found the additional precedents of the fences that we just provided in the last couple of days. One was for 1701 Adams Street, which we took a picture of that has a 6-foot fence on the corner. And the other is 1308 Hartford Street, which is a corner lot as well that has a 7-foot fence at the border. And Stephen was so kind to just submit those pictures to us. So just wanted to make sure you had those. Can you confirm?
Yes, we do.
Awesome. So there's several reasons that we would love to extend the fence. One was that we have young kids, and so we'd love for them and us to have full use of the yard with their friends. They also play a lot of basketball, and we have a basketball hoop attached to our garage. So I think it's just safe so that the balls don't fly out onto the adjacent street. Third, we're really actually concerned about safety, and I apologize for not including this in our original application. We have a Google Nest camera, and there were 3 separate occasions when people frankly wandered into our yard. One time Joel was traveling to California for business on March 5th, and I was actually alone with the kids and called the Arlington police because we saw someone on our camera actually just in our yard at 11 p.m. So I called the police. They were awesome. They came. I showed them video. And that sort of prompted the whole, like, I think we need to just have a little bit more security. So while we do have the cameras, that's great. I think the added safety with the fence would be fantastic. So the fourth point is that we gathered support from our neighbors. The side along Key and Hudson, also across the street and right next to us, they all signed the support petition. And because it was COVID, what we actually did was provided each of them with copies of the permits, copies of our plot, the plot that you see now, copies of the fence and the picture of what that would be. And in addition to signing those petitions, I mean, they gave us notes of support, like, great, I hope this looks good, good luck, etc. I have those like Post-it notes, if you will, that I didn't submit versus, with the application, but definitely with the petition. So like in close, we really hope that this is approved, but if not, we respectfully request 5.3 fence. Stephen gave us some guidance, Mr. Rise, because they did find a 5'4" like retaining wall that may be used as a precedence. So that's our plea, and thank you so much for listening.
Yeah, and Joel Menton here, thank you for your time and thank you for considering. The only other things I would add is just some questions that you had earlier, as well as some that were sent by email. First, it's about 3 feet from the curb to the property line. So we're basically talking about putting a fence halfway between where you see it today. That new fence would be exactly the same size as it is today, and it would be consistent with those other 2 properties that Kelly mentioned, the closest one being a block and a half away from our house. So very close on to our house from where we are today, 1308 Hartford. Second, there's no, these were questions that were sent in advance. There's no traffic change. There's no additional safety hazard for people turning from Key onto Hudson. We will not be putting the fence anywhere close to Key there. And then third, last but not least, the neighbor across the street, Gio Snidnall, did sign and approved, and Jacob, who was on the other side of us, approved as well, and both of those should be in the application.
As well as the people across the street.
Yeah. Yep. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the applicants? All right.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Owen?
Yes. What was the name of the neighbor at 1415 Hudson? Your next door neighbor?
Owen. Is that is Mohammed? I just made phone contact with him over the weekend on a different retaining wall issue that's impacting the fence. I texted him to see if he could support this. He's very friendly to everything we're doing. I just didn't have a chance to connect with him on this specific issue.
It's currently renters are in that house.
Yeah.
So we tried to contact the owner, but we just recently got his information because they're retaining walls coming into our property, and he's working with us to fix that. Otherwise, we would have reached out to him, but they were renters.
Yeah.
Did you make contact with neighbors 1411?
Which one? Sorry, you were.
Echo.
Yeah.
So 1414. I'll say one more time, 1411 Hudson and 1414 Hudson. They're the two neighbors on Hudson immediately across the street from the corner of your property where the fence would be.
Yes, we've talked to both of them. Geo Snindle was one of our supporters. He's the one right on the corner.
No,
that's on key. He's on key.
Oh.
So you have to click on the other.
Oh. Yes, so
that's Shelley.
Yeah, so we've talked to Shelley and he is supportive. We did not get a letter from him because we talked to him about it 2 weeks ago. So I apologize for that. The neighbor next to that, we have not.
You said 1411 and 1414. 1414. 1415
accents and 1411 accents and 1411. But basically, next two neighbors.
No. Yeah. Just the one right behind us that has the renters, but not the other 1411.
No.
I noticed we were getting a lot of feedback.
Yeah, we'll mute when we're not talking. I think it's our computer,
Okay,
so
okay.
we'll mute when we're not talking.
All right. Sorry. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Melnick.
Yes, I had a question for Mr. Rissy. Since we're talking about, like in this picture, it sounds like the fence, right on the property line, there would still be, maybe 3 feet or so of grass. And what I'm wondering is, and I think this probably would have come up in this discussion, but is there any plans of the county to put a sidewalk or any kind of improvement along that street? Because, to bring like an improvement up to where they're proposing to put the fence? Or is the county, to your knowledge, just planning on, not doing anything with that grassy area next to the curb?
I'm not currently aware of any planned developments for expanding a sidewalk along that roadway.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions? Is there a motion?
Madam Chair.
Mr. Melnick?
Okay, so, just having heard everything, I'm the buffer that's already going to be there, so I'm prepared to make a motion in favor of this application. So I move that the attached proposed resolution be approved by the Board of Zoning Appeals in case V1155920 UP1 with the stated conditions. Let's see if I can get it here. And let's see, what I would add is a condition number 3 with a 3-year period as stated. that expires after 3 years, in other words.
Thank you, Mr. Melnick.
And so this is the alternative proposed resolution in favor.
Thank you for the clarification.
Okay.
Is there a second? I will second for the purposes of discussion.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Owen.
I don't support the motion because I don't think that the criterion is met. I don't think this fence is similar enough to the placement and structure of other fences in this area. Certainly not on the, as we talked about on the previous application, my view is that it matters what's in the very immediate vicinity, what you can see and be seen from the parcel. And certainly there are no 6-foot tall fences in the 3 feet from the front of property there. We heard at our last hearing a lot of neighbor concerns about a 6-foot tall fence that was on a corner lot that was very similar design actually to this one. And neighbors felt that it was very imposing in the neighborhood and didn't like it. And in that particular case, it was on the wrong side of the parcel and was actually not supposed to be there in the first place, but we saw the consequences of it. The BZA has in the past denied a 6-foot fence that somebody asked for in the front of their parcel in Lion Village, a few blocks from here. The family that was building the pool, the fireman that was building the pool in the backyard, we denied that fence request. It's a very similar situation to this one. So I just don't think that the criteria are met for a 6-foot tall fence in this parcel. So I oppose the motion.
Madam Chair,
Madam Chair, I believe you're muted if you're speaking to us.
Ms. Freshman, I'll call on Ms. Freshman and then Mr. Melnick.
Yes, I agree with Mr. Owen, and I think that when you look at the picture here, what we're talking about is a fence that's much closer to the street and much longer. It creates a barrier, and I'm sympathetic to the needs of the family to have more protection, but I think they could do it more modestly if they so chose without having to have an exception.
Mr. Melnick.
Okay, so what I'm thinking about, in making my motion is just the idea that with use permits, and you talk about compatibility. It's like we were saying this in a previous meeting, that it can be different things. Like for instance, in the table, so on 1300 North Hudson Street, a 1-foot setback to a 2-story dwelling, or 2.6 feet to even wind wall, a 2nd-story addition. And then open front porches 4.2 feet and further. But, here we have a fence, and so I'm just thinking about this 3-foot buffer that we've heard about that's already built in beyond the curb because of the right-of-way. So that's what I'm thinking about, that, I'm seeing these things in the area that are already 1 foot and 2.6 feet away. So that's why I make my motion. I don't think, I wouldn't be for it if it looked like it was right up against where people are walking, like on a sidewalk or the street. But I'm for this just because of this buffer area and what I'm seeing in the table.
Thank you, Mr. Melnick. Question for staff. So if this fence was set back 3 feet from the property line, they could build a 6-foot fence?
Correct.
So it's really a placement issue. They could have the privacy that they're seeking if they set the fence back.
Correct. That's why it's brought as a use permit.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Could I add one more point?
They can build closer. And I mean, I'm hearing an echo.
Yeah.
But They could build it 4 feet.
Yeah, your option would be to build at 4 feet or set your fence back 3 feet and build at 6.
Yeah.
Right.
4 feet in the location proposed or 6 feet in the location 3 feet away.
Right.
And then you would need no permission.
Madam Chair, can I add one more point?
I think we're headed towards a motion here.
We have.
I mean, we have a motion and we're already past that. We're doing discussion now, and I think we're ready to do a roll. Is there any further discussion by board members? I'll call the roll. Mr. Owen?
No.
Ms. Freshman?
No.
I can't hear you, but I think you called nay. Aye.
Sorry, Mr. Melnick is an aye. Ms. Clark?
Is an aye.
Chair votes no. The motion fails 3-2. The use permit is not granted.
Madam Chair, or Mr. Rissy, do we need another motion or are we done? Oh, you're muted, Mr. Rissy.
That we should create a motion to deny?
I believe you need another motion.
Yeah.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
in case V-11559-20-UP-1, I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached proposed resolution denying the use permit.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Freshman. Any further discussion? I will call the roll. Mr. Owen?
Aye.
Ms. Freshman?
Aye.
Mr. Melnick?
No.
Ms. Clark?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The motion to deny carries on a vote of 4-1. So, Mr. Rissy, if you're not clear, this is to the applicant. If you're not clear on your options, Mr. Rissy can review, or your architect may also follow what your options are. Thank you very much. Mr. Rissy, we have one more item.
The next case is case number V-11560-20-UP-1. It is a use permit request by Matthew R. Fail and Dasha M. Hermosilla, the owners, to permit a street setback of 19 feet to the porch, 18.3 feet to the porch eaves from 8th Road North instead of 21 feet to the porch, 19.5 feet to the porch eave as required, to permit a left side setback of 9.7 feet to the wall from the side property line instead of 10 feet as required, and to permit a rear setback of 23.2 feet to the screen porch instead of 23.5 feet as previously approved, regarding a new front porch, new stone veneer addition, and structural modification to an existing rear screen porch previously approved by the BZA in the R6 zoning district, premise known as 5312 8th Road North. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution granting the use permit request with conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Rissy. Are there any questions for staff? All right. Mr. Rissy, we have the applicant and his agent. Are there any additional speakers here tonight that wish to speak on this? All right, let's hear from the applicants, please. Do we have applicants?
Right. Can you guys hear us?
Okay, I can hear you. I'm gonna see if I can see you.
Oh, there we are.
All right, well, thank you guys. I'm Matt Foley. My wife, Dasha Hermosillo, is with us. We also have our agent joined us this evening, Matt, who's also signed in. We wanted to first thank the board as well as Mr. Reese and his team. Mr. Reese and his team have been very supportive to us throughout this entire process, so we wanted to in particular thank him and his team. I wanted to just keep mine brief since we're last on the agenda and focus on the neighborhood outreach. We did reach out to each of our neighbors, given we have a request for multiple sides. So we do have support from our 3 neighbors across the street, which would be where the front porch would be most impacted. We've also spoke with and got written support from Bruce and Iris, who are our neighbors at 5308, which is on the side of the property where we're seeking the 9.7 versus the 10-foot area, as well as our neighbor behind us, given the impact for the back porch. We also spoke with the neighbor on the other side, just out of courtesy, and all of them have expressed their support in written format for us, and that's all been submitted with part of our application. So, with that, I'll take any questions once you guys have a chance to talk.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you for all the neighborhood outreach you did. Any questions for the applicant?
Madam Chair,
Mr. Owen?
I'm prepared to make a motion if there's no questions.
I just had a quick question for Mr. Rissy. On the revised plat, where it shows the new red lines showing what the location of the outer walls would be with the facing, I just noticed that the dimensions don't change, and I just wondered why that was. I mean, it's just that, it still shows the original dimensions.
Madam Chair, I believe it's just a very small encroachment of the stone material that they will be cladding the porch with, and that's why they didn't change the dimensions.
And that's a couple of inches?
It's literally the width of the stone.
The width of the stone. Okay. All right. Thank you. I'm prepared for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals approve the attached proposed resolution approving use permit V-11560-20-UP-1, subject to the conditions listed, plus an additional condition number 4 with a 3-year time limit.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Owen, seconded by Ms. Freshman. Is there any discussion?
I appreciate the applicants waiting till 10:15 at night for their easy approval. You paid your price.
I hope you had refreshments.
Happy to do it.
We're looking forward to our front porch.
Right, it's going to be lovely. So I will call the roll. Mr. Owen?
Aye.
Ms. Freshman?
Aye.
Mr. Melnick?
Aye.
Ms. Clark?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The motion granting the use permit passes on a 5-0 vote.
Thank you all very much.
All right. Good luck with your project.
Thank you.
All right. Any other? We have Mr. Rissy had furnished us minutes electronically, and he did not have them in the package because of the timing. Are we prepared to adopt the minutes, approve the minutes tonight with our electronic read, or do we want to wait until we have hard copies?
I'll move approval.
Second.
All those in favor? Oh, roll call, sorry. Mr. Owen.
Aye.
Ms. Freshman.
Aye.
Mr. Melnick.
Aye.
Ms. Clark.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The minutes are approved 5-0. Any other matters that we want to take up at this late hour?
Madam Chair, was the second on that motion Mr. Owen for my records? Thank you. I do have one item just to discuss with you guys. It came to me during the meeting, actually, why you may have received multiple applications without signatures for this meeting. Most of the applications came in for this meeting sometime in the mid-March, April period when we were transitioning out of the office. And actually, until today, the PDF that we had formerly made fillable online didn't allow you to attach a digital signature. The idea was that it's a paper application, so you can fill it out on the computer, but you have to sign it before you give it to us. That obviously had some issues when we had to start taking applications digitally. So hopefully it will be fixed going forward, now that we have the ability for people to attach digital signatures to future applications. And hopefully it's not an issue for long, because we'll soon be part of the Permit Arlington, and this application will go away altogether.
Except for the financial disclosure form.
That still has to be uploaded as an attachment, so yes, that isn't going away anytime soon.
And
we've got cool new stuff in the works on that.
And then, so everything will be signed digitally when it's online.
Yes, everything is done digitally once it's a web program, so they'll just be clicking to answer questions, entering fields, and attaching documents.
All right. And regarding the disclosure form, is that a candidate for online at some point?
It is not incorporated in a digital environment currently. Currently, it was because of the notarization issue. It's only being uploaded as an attachment.
Okay. So it'll be signed. It'll be signed manually. Sorry, I talked over.
When we started the Permit Arlington process, there wasn't such thing as an e-notarization. There is now, but so maybe in the future it could be a candidate, but not currently.
We've had issues in the past where people have submitted untrue material to us in the application, and we have the power to arrange the application to require people to be truthful under penalty of law, but we have to actually write it up that way. So in addition to the financial disclosure, I could foresee us, especially if we're already requiring a notary for one thing, I could foresee us wanting to add a notarized signature just in general, swearing that everything they sent to us is true, so that we can have more faith in some of the other claims that sometimes are made to us in writing.
Understood.
And the online system will allow for, are there e-notarizations?
There is now e-notary service. We have actually had some of the applicants, possibly tonight, possibly for some of the future meetings, have their documents signed by a notary electronically rather than in person.
Okay. Okay.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Owen.
Just with regard to the financial disclosure, I have not yet given a draft to Mr. Rissy because Mr. Melnick has very kindly offered to make some suggestions. So I want to make sure to incorporate those before I give them to Mr. Rissy.
Thank you, Mr. Melnick.
My pleasure.
It's not the word I'd choose, but okay.
Yeah, no, I was just like, I'm actually very enthused.
Good.
Don't let my voice deceive you. I was telling Mr. Owen, I'm an editor at heart. When I was in law school, I was an editor of the Law Review, so it's in my bones ever since. So right. I'm really glad to do this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Okay.
And then I did want to follow up on the question before about when we have back porches involved, they seem to come up on variances even more than use permits. But I really struggle when we can't see pictures until the night of the meeting of what the porch looks like. or what the space looks like. And I'm wondering if there's anything we can do to make it more likely that we see pictures of the back of the house on those kinds of applications in the packet. And if there's any suggestions for that.
I can ask, but currently it may be difficult to get those any sooner than we do. Honestly, I often don't get pictures for our PowerPoint until very shortly before our meetings, sometimes the day before, the day of.
Why is that?
The zoning inspectors sometimes just, or I would say often, don't upload the pictures when they take them. And so I'm often trying to chase down pictures for our PowerPoint.
Are those all fresh pictures?
Yes, every picture you see is freshly taken from someone. I will say we've had some issues with the current inspectors during our current COVID situation. They're not going on to properties. So getting rear pictures is even more difficult right now. Actually, for the application that dealt with a rear porch this evening, I had to reach out to the applicants to ask them to supply rear pictures.
I don't see why that wouldn't be a standard part of the whole process. It absolutely blows my mind that we understand we can't go on the property, but if it's in their interest to show us to attach a picture or two from the backyard because it's in their interest that it might be persuasive for their case, why wouldn't they do that? They do submit a lot of pictures, albeit at the last minute, as like we got today. It just, some of the things that we struggle with, especially last minute information, it really boggles my mind that it makes it so much more difficult for you and for us to have to juggle all this stuff at the last minute. But it's certainly in the case of anything on the rear of any property, or even if they think that it might persuade us by standing on their rear deck, like the ones today with this, and giving us a shot of the view from their deck in all directions, so we can see how far away all the neighbors are. I mean, if it's part of their application because it's part of their argument, and it's much more helpful to staff and to us to have it in advance. And then nobody has to go on anybody's property for any reason. But for that matter, they could send us all the shots from the front too. But I take the point that it's a good thing to have official pictures.
Well, it's more reliable because people may not want you to really see their backyard because it might not be persuasive.
Well, that's fine if they elect not to do it. And we can also say, look, if we can't see it, we don't want to talk about it.
Right. So that's something that you can put on your to-do list, Mr. Rissy, I guess, asking, because I know that inspectors have been going on properties, at least for some purpose, because the Ode Street property had an inspector walking all over it when I was there looking at it. I don't know from which department he was, if it was, but there was someone from the county walking all over there. So they are doing some of that, but understand that under COVID, we have special rules, but we won't be under COVID. Maybe in a year or two, we'll be back to normal, right?
But we've never had rear shots. It's not
right.
COVID.
Yeah,
it's
right.
Not about COVID. It's about, going onto somebody's property without their permission. But regardless, but they can supply that information if they understand that it might be helpful to their case.
I thought I even remembered seeing people sign releases, or there was some checkbox that alerted the applicants to the fact that they were giving permission for someone from the county to come take pictures. That's in the
applicant authorization that is part of the application packet that applicants have to fill out that authorizes the county to come onto their property for the purpose of taking photos.
But they must never go in the back. I've never seen an application that had a picture from the back, except that which was supplied by the applicant.
We had some this evening. The use permit for the rear deck that had been built already was a picture of the rear that an inspector had provided us.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good.
That was probably the building inspector who found the condition in the first place, right?
It's actually unclear to me who found it first. There were a number of inspections for different things going on.
But anyway, it's possible to do.
All right, anything else for the good of the group? All right, well, guess what? We're not going to have a meeting for at least 3 more weeks.
Yay!
And how far how far are we dug out from our backlog?
This takes us through part of what would have been our June meeting.
All right.
So in September, we'll do June and July?
Yes, that's correct. We'll finish June. We'll actually do all of July, and then September 30th is new cases that would have been heard earlier in September.
All right, making progress.
That's awesome.
Today was also the application deadline for October, so those will come, I think it's 2 weeks after our last September hearing.
Yeah, we'll have, we'll be meeting every other week until mid-October. Yeah. But we get I think we get a 3-week or 4-week break.
Yeah.
4 weeks.
4-week break, yeah.
And if the October meeting has 23 items on it, maybe we can consider having even 2 in October.
Oh, no. I don't think we should ever go over a dozen or 15. I mean, look, tonight we had 10 and it still took 3 hours.
Yeah.
Without all of the discussion and intro.
Yeah. So if you guys got patience for one more thing, I did discuss with Mr. Rizzi the issue of televising our meetings. And Mr. Rizzi, you can jump in, but I'll just paraphrase. The issue, theoretically staff has no objection, but what it does for us is at the moment it reduces our flexibility. Because right now we have the flexibility to have meetings pretty much at whenever we want to. Because, through COVID, because it's via Zoom, we just need us. If we go to a televised format, we will have to establish a regular schedule. We'll have to establish carryover dates, and because we're going to have to coordinate with the TV staff and the station. So it seems like for now, while we're under COVID and we're doing this remotely, that it's probably to our advantage not to move on it. But I'm open.
I agree with you.
Yeah, I do too. We need flexibility.
Yeah. Yeah, I think once we're past this and we can set up carryover dates, regular carryover dates, and figure out how we want to do that and publish those in advance, then I think we're good. But for now, we do enjoy more flexibility than usual.
Well, the good news is the public now has access to these recorded videos. So we're a half step there already just by having these recorded meetings. So I think it makes sense to transition, when we do transition to in-person meetings again, then people might miss the ability to tune into the video, and that would be the right time to consider moving to televised.
Yeah, actually, the public
never going back to the courthouse.
This is very convenient.
I don't see why. I don't see why. I really don't. I don't see that there's any advantage. I think we get more participation from more people because they can go in and out and not have to get a babysitter and schlep down to the courthouse. And it doesn't matter if it snows or there's a derecho or whatever. I mean, other than, transmission, I suppose, is a problem. I don't foresee the need to do it. And even if it meant meeting twice a month and keeping some sort of reasonable sized agendas, I'd be much more amenable to that.
I don't think it's our choice. I think we'll be compelled by the state legislature either way.
Unless we request that now, that given, we could advocate for it. Yeah, right now we're operating under an emergency order. If there was a consensus in the county, right? And this is to Mr. Rizzi, other departments, other commissions. I don't know how they feel about, meeting remotely. I mean, if there was a consensus in the county that there was an advantage to the county and that nothing was lost, there could be some lobbying done.
Or I would suggest that it's possible for me to dial in and you all to meet.
It's true that you only need 3 in person? Or is that still the?
No, that's correct. That's the old law is that only 3 of us needed to be there in person, and it is possible for 1 or more to dial in. I think as long as it's no more than 2 at a time dialing in, and you also have at least 3 present. So on a 5-person board, it's the same requirement.
So there would be another advantage to rotate our participation. Though I don't know, as the chair, I don't know, we have to figure out how that works. I mean, the chair obviously would be in person, and how they would communicate with the other people. We'd have to figure that out, but.
We could also have witnesses, who needed to be remote. That might be beneficial.
I mean, that would be certainly a benefit to the public.
And I bet some of the staff who've been patiently sitting here on mute for 3.5 hours, I bet some of them would like to continue to be at home.
All right. If there's nothing else, having completed the agenda, I declare the meeting adjourned.